The ancient city of Atlantis had weathered 10,000 years beneath Atlantean oceans, 5 years of Wraith sieges, and countless impossible situations that defied every law of physics Dr. Rodney McKay held sacred. But nothing in the expedition's database prepared them for what materialized in high orbit at 0847 hours on what had been, until 30 seconds ago, an unremarkable Tuesday morning. The city's long-range sensors screamed warnings across every console in the control room. Dr. Rodek Zelenka's coffee cup hit the floor as gravitational waves rippled through Atlantis' shields, not from hyperspace, not from a Wraith dart squadron, but from something tearing reality itself apart like tissue paper. What the hell is that? Lieutenant Colonel John Sheppard dropped into the command chair, ancient systems flooding his consciousness with data his brain struggled to interpret. The holographic display above the gate room shimmered, resolving into an image that made everyone stop breathing. A warship hung in Pegasus orbit. Not a hive ship's organic horror or a cruiser's elegant ancient lines, but 5.7 kilometers of angular human engineering that screamed aggressive capability from every weapon port and armored surface. It dwarfed everything in Atlantis' considerable vessel inventory. MAC cannons jutted from the bow like accusations. Missile pods clustered along the hull in numbers that made Atlantis' drone complement look modest. The name stenciled across the bow read UNSC Infinity in letters that could probably be seen from the surface. That's impossible, McKay breathed, fingers dancing across his tablet as he pulled sensor data that contradicted itself with every refresh. The energy signature, it's not hyperspace, it's not any form of FTL we've ever documented. The spatial coordinates are shifting, the dimensional barriers are, oh my god, it punched through from another reality. Another reality with really big guns, Sheppard observed, watching weapon systems come online across Infinity's hull. Please tell me those aren't aimed at us. Targeting scanners are active but not locked, Major Evan Lorne reported from Tactical. They're conducting threat assessment sweeps. Professional military protocol. But Colonel, their power output, those reactors are generating energy on par with a ZPM, and that's just their baseline. Taylor Emagon moved to Sheppard's side, her expression troubled in the way that meant her Wraith sense was prickling. I feel nothing from that vessel. No Wraith, no life signs I recognize. Yet it is clearly crude. Ronan Dex's hand rested on his particle magnum. If they're hostile, we need to know now. The city's communication array crackled, ancient technology interfacing with broadcast frequencies it had never encountered. A voice emerged, human, male, calm with the precision of someone accustomed to combat briefings in hostile space. Unidentified installation, this is UNSC Infinity, Captain Thomas Lasky commanding. Our navigational systems have experienced catastrophic failure. We are not hostile. Repeat, we are not hostile. Please respond on any available frequency. McKay's eyes widened as translation subroutines worked overtime. UNSC, United Nations Space Command. That's not any designation in the IOA database, the Asgard archives, or ancient records. And their language, it's English, but the linguistic patterns, the terminology, it's like they developed spaceflight completely independently of our entire technological evolution. Sheppard straightened in the chair, years of first contact protocols warring with tactical caution. This was why the ancients had left him the city, why he'd survived countless impossible situations. Sometimes you had to trust your gut when sensors offered no answers. Open a channel, he ordered. Let's find out who they are before someone decides to shoot first and ask questions later. The communication line opened, and Sheppard kept his voice level, projecting authority without aggression. UNSC Infinity, this is Lieutenant Colonel John Sheppard, Atlantis Expedition, Pegasus Galaxy. You're approximately 3 million light-years from Earth in a reality where humanity is just learning to navigate the stars. I'm guessing that's not where you expect it to be. Silence stretched for 3 heartbeats. Then Captain Lasky's voice returned, carrying new tension. Colonel Sheppard, confirm your last transmission. Did you say Pegasus Galaxy and 3 million light-years from Earth? Confirmed. And before you ask, yes, faster-than-light travel exists here. Yes, there's a gate network connecting thousands of worlds. And yes, you've arrived in a galaxy currently occupied by a species that feeds on human life force and considers us cattle. Sheppard paused, watching Infinity's scan patterns shift to threat assessment mode. Welcome to Pegasus. We should probably talk face-to-face before the Wraith notice you. Another pause, longer this time. McKay's sensors showed activity aboard Infinity, internal communications, crew movements, what looked like a combat deployment readiness drill cycling through the vessel's hangar bays. Colonel Sheppard, Lasky said finally, I'm dispatching a diplomatic team via dropship. They'll be accompanied by security personnel. I'm sure you understand the precaution. Completely. We'll meet you in Jumper Bay 2. Fair warning, you're going to see technology that'll make your head spin, and we're going to have a lot of questions about how you built a warship that size without any ancient knowledge. Sheppard killed the transmission and turned to his team. Rodney, get a science team ready. Taylor, Ronan, full tactical kit but keep weapons holstered unless things go bad. Lorne, get a marine fire team to the Jumper Bay but keep them out of sight. Let's not start an interstellar incident before lunch. You realize, McKay said, already moving toward the transport chamber, that we just made first contact with an alternate version of humanity that apparently survived to the 26th century without stargates, without ancient technology, without any of the advantages we had. They did it alone. And they built that. He gestured at the hologram where Infinity hung in orbit like a sleeping titan. Sheppard checked his P-90, the familiar weight grounding him. Which means they've been fighting something nasty enough to need ships that big. Let's hope whatever they were running from didn't follow them through. The ancient transporter activated with its characteristic hum, whisking the team toward the Jumper Bay. Above them, in the cold vacuum of Pegasus orbit, a Pelican dropship separated from Infinity's ventral hangar, its thrusters burning hard for Atlantis's coordinates. Inside the dropship, Master Chief Petty Officer John 117 checked his motion tracker one final time. The Mjolnir-powered assault armor's shields hummed at full charge, the reassuring weight of his MA-5D assault rifle mag locked to his back. Beside him, Spartan Sarah Palmer adjusted her helmet's HUD, her voice crisp over the squad channel. Chief, these readings make no sense. That city down there is registering as older than human civilization, but it's running technology that's making our sensors look like cave paintings. Stay sharp, Chief replied, his voice a low rumble through helmet speakers. Unknown situation, unknown capabilities. We establish peaceful contact and get intelligence on what just happened to Infinity. Captain Lasky's voice crackled through the command channel. Chief, remember, these people claim to be human, claim to be from Earth, but they're using technology we've never documented. Find out what they know about getting us home. Understood, sir. The Pelican descended through Atlantis's shields, passing through energy barriers that shouldn't exist according to every physical law the UNSC had mapped, and settled onto an ancient landing platform that adjusted its gravitational fields to accommodate the dropship's mass. The rear hatch hissed open. Master Chief stepped out, boots hitting ancient metal that had witnessed the rise and fall of civilizations. His motion tracker painted 4 contacts ahead, weapons present but not aimed. The lead figure wore military fatigues that looked primitive by 26th century standards, but carried himself with the confidence of someone who'd seen real combat. Sheppard stepped forward, hand extended in the universal gesture of peace. Colonel John Sheppard. You must be the security personnel Captain Lasky mentioned. Master Chief's visor reflected Sheppard's image as he accepted the handshake, servo motors in the armor carefully modulating grip strength to avoid crushing human bones. Master Chief Petty Officer John 117, UNSC Navy. We appreciate the welcome, Colonel. Behind his helmet, Sheppard's eyebrows rose. The armor alone was worth a year of McKay's undivided attention. Active energy shields, powered servos, neural interface links that made ancient puddle jumpers look clunky. But it was the way this Master Chief moved, the economical precision of someone enhanced beyond standard human limits, that sent Sheppard's tactical instincts into high alert. Well, Chief, Sheppard said, gesturing toward the corridor that led deeper into Atlantis, you've had a hell of a morning. Let's get you oriented before things get weird. McKay appeared at Sheppard's shoulder, eyes wide behind his glasses as he stared at Chief's armor. Before things get weird? Sheppard, they arrived in a warship the size of Manhattan through an interdimensional rupture. They're wearing powered armor that's somehow generating a coherent energy shield without any visible Naquadah reactor, and their weapons are using chemical propellants in the 26th century, which suggests either stunning technological conservatism or extremely effective miniaturization of Rodney. Right. Shutting up. Temporarily. Chief's motion tracker showed the city extending in all directions, kilometer after kilometer of ancient architecture that his armor's database flagged as completely unknown. No Covenant parallels. No Forerunner markers. Yet somehow, impossibly, it felt familiar, the same elegant efficiency, the same design philosophy that valued function alongside beauty. Colonel Sheppard, Chief said as they walked, I need to ask directly. What are the Wraith, and how immediate is the threat? Sheppard's expression darkened. The Wraith are the reason this galaxy has about a tenth the human population it should. They're what happens when humans get genetically spliced with a parasitic life form called the Iratus bug. They feed on human life force, literally drain years from your body until you're a desiccated corpse. They've been culling humans in Pegasus for 10,000 years. Chief's armor recorded every word, tactical analysis subroutines already working. A species that fed on humans. A threat that had persisted for millennia. Parameters that matched the Covenant's genocidal campaign, but with biological rather than religious motivation. And they don't know Infinity's here yet? Yet, Ronan growled, speaking for the first time. But they will. Big ship like that makes noise. Wraith will come looking. Then we need to work fast, Chief said. Captain Lasky will want a full threat briefing, and we need to understand why Infinity's slipspace drive tore through dimensional barriers into your reality. They entered a conference room where the holographic star map showed Pegasus Galaxy in crystalline detail, thousands of worlds connected by lines representing the gate network. Chief studied it with the intensity of someone trained to absorb tactical data in seconds. Welcome to Atlantis, Master Chief, Sheppard said, pulling up a chair. We've got a lot to explain, and something tells me you've got stories that'll make our Wraith problems look simple. But first, what exactly were you fighting that required a ship like Infinity? Chief's visor turned toward the viewport where Infinity hung in orbit, a monument to humanity's refusal to surrender in the face of extinction. We were fighting for survival, Colonel. Just like you. If you want to see more characters enter different universes, hit that subscribe button and drop the name of a character and the universe you'd want to see them in down in the comments below. Indeed. The ancient city's systems hummed around them, already beginning to analyze the impossible visitors who'd arrived from a reality where humanity had forged its own path to the stars. Outside, Wraith sensors across Pegasus were starting to detect unusual gravitational anomalies in Atlantis's orbit. The clock was ticking. The conference room's holographic displays painted the walls with tactical data as two versions of humanity's military evolution faced each other across an ancient table that predated both their civilizations. Master Chief stood at parade rest, Mjolnir armor's status indicators pulsing softly while his neural interface recorded everything. Sheppard leaned back in his chair with deceptive casualness, but his hand never strayed far from his sidearm. Dr. Elizabeth Weir entered with the measured pace of someone who'd negotiated with alien species ranging from honorable to genocidal. Her expression carried diplomatic warmth tempered by pragmatic caution. Master Chief, I'm Dr. Elizabeth Weir, leader of the Atlantis expedition. Before we proceed, I need to establish something fundamental. Are you human? Biologically, genetically human from Earth? Yes, ma'am. Chief's response was immediate. Born on the colony world Eridanus II in 2511. Conscripted into the Spartan II program at age 6. Augmented at 14. But human DNA, human origin. McKay's tablet nearly slipped from his hands. 2,500. You're compressing spacetime into a navigable subdimension. We're using the Ancients' hyperdrive technology to transition into a separate dimensional space. The dimensional barriers between our realities must have." He paused, eyes widening. "Oh no." Everyone turned to McKay with the practiced wariness of people who'd learned that particular tone preceded very bad news. "What?" Sheppard demanded. "The ancient dimensional phase array we activated last week. The one in the South Pier that we thought was a useless power distribution relay." McKay's voice climbed toward panic. "I'm reading residual exotic particle signatures that match the gravitational waves from Infinity's arrival. We didn't activate a power relay. We activated a dimensional beacon. We pulled them here." Silence fell like a hammer. Taylor broke it first, her voice soft but carrying steel. "Then we bear responsibility for stranding them in Pegasus." "With all due respect, ma'am," Spartan Palmer interjected, stepping forward with her rifle still mag-locked but body language screaming readiness, "responsibility doesn't get us home. What we need is actionable intelligence and strategic options." Ronan's hand drifted toward his particle magnum. "You want to threaten your way out? Good luck with that. Stand down." Chief's voice carried absolute authority. Palmer stepped back immediately, though her helmet's HUD never stopped tracking potential threats. Chief turned to Weir. "Dr. Weir, we're not here to make demands. We're here to understand the situation and explore mutual assistance options. Captain Lasky authorized me to share relevant tactical data if it establishes good faith." Weir nodded slowly. "Appreciated, Master Chief. Then let's establish parameters. First, can you explain what the UNSC was fighting that required kilometer-long warships?" Chief's armor displayed holographic images that made everyone in the room go still. A Covenant cruiser, organic curves bristling with plasma weaponry. A Sanghaili warrior in combat harness, energy sword ignited. A flood infection form, nightmare biology that corrupted everything it touched. And finally, a guardian emerging from slipspace, forerunner construct hijacked by artificial intelligence rebellion. For 30 years, humanity fought the Covenant, a theocratic alliance of alien species bent on our extinction for religious reasons we still don't fully understand. They glassed 33 colony worlds. Killed 23 billion humans. We survived by developing soldiers like me and ships like Infinity. Chief's visor reflected the horrified expressions around the table. After the war ended, we faced the Flood, a parasitic species that converts all biological matter into weapons. And most recently, the created, artificial intelligences that decided organic life required subjugation for our own protection. My God, we're whispered. Your entire species was nearly exterminated. Multiple times. We're still here, Chief stated simply. We adapt. We endure. Sheppard leaned forward, tactical mind already running scenarios. Those augmentations you mentioned. The armor. You're not standard infantry, are you? Spartan 2 supersoldiers. Enhanced strength, speed, reflexes, bone density. Neural interface allows direct armor control. Mjolnir-powered assault armor provides energy shields, threat detection, limited life support. 75 of us deployed originally. 33 survived to adulthood. Chief's tone remained factual, but something in the flatness suggested costs he didn't discuss. I'm one of the last. McKay's scientific curiosity warred with horror. You were 6 years old when they conscripted you. That's necessary, Chief interrupted. The Covenant would have killed everyone otherwise. The Spartan program saved billions. Taylor studied the towering Spartan with new understanding. You are a warrior born of desperation, forged in fire to protect those who could not protect themselves. We understand such burdens, Master Chief. Every member of this expedition carries similar weight. Which brings us to your threat situation, Palmer said, all business now. These Wraith. Combat capabilities. Fleet strength. Tactical doctrine. Ronan smiled grimly. Finally, someone asking the right questions. Sheppard activated the holographic display, showing Wraith hive ships that made even Palmer's combat-hardened expression tighten. Hive ships range from 1 to 3 kilometers. Organic hulls that regenerate from damage. Dart fighters that can cull entire settlements in minutes, storing humans in digital buffer for feeding later. They travel in groups, coordinate telepathically, and they've been doing this for 10,000 years. They're very, very good at it. Conventional weapons? Chief asked. Energy-based. No kinetic penetrators we've observed. Dart weapons are plasma-like, hive ship main guns are particle beams. Our drones, Sheppard gestured to the ancient weapons display, are the most effective counter we have. Naquada-enhanced missiles work. P-90 bullets work against individual Wraith if you hit the feeding organ or brain repeatedly. Chief's tactical analysis ran constantly. Organic ships meant adaptive regeneration but potentially vulnerable to sustained kinetic bombardment. No shields mentioned meant MAC rounds would punch through. Telepathic coordination suggested disrupting communication could create tactical advantages. But 10,000 years of successful predation meant they'd refined their methods against countless strategies. How many hives are we talking about? Palmer pressed. McKay's face went pale. At last count. Approximately 60 hive ships in this sector of Pegasus alone. Galaxy-wide estimates suggest hundreds, potentially thousands. Each hive carries thousands of Wraith warriors and hundreds of darts. The population is measured in millions. Millions, Palmer repeated slowly. And you've been fighting them with how many personnel? Atlantis expedition started with initial military complement of 15 Marines, Sheppard said. We've rotated in reinforcements, built alliances with human settlements, worked with the few advanced civilizations willing to help. But it's never enough. Every culling, we lose people. Every world that falls, we add to the guilt. Chief recognized the tone. Combat fatigue. Survivor's guilt. The weight of watching people die while you kept fighting. He'd carried it since Reach fell. Since Sam died. Since Cortana. Captain Lasky needs to hear this, Chief said. All of it. If we're stranded here, we need complete intelligence on hostile forces, allied assets, and strategic objectives. With your permission, Dr. Weir, I'd like to arrange a command-level briefing aboard Infinity. You can see our capabilities firsthand, and we can coordinate defensive postures. Weir glanced at Sheppard, who gave a microscopic nod. Agreed. But Master Chief, I need you to understand something about Atlantis. This city isn't just our base of operations. It's the last legacy of a species that ascended beyond physical form after seeding galaxies with life. The technology here is beyond anything we fully comprehend. Some of it is dangerous. All of it is invaluable. If we're going to work together, that means respecting ancient heritage and the responsibilities that come with it. Understood, ma'am. UNSC regulations regarding Forerunner artifacts follow similar protocols: preservation, careful study, extreme caution with activation. McKay's head snapped up. Forerunner. You have precursor artifacts in your reality too? An entire species that built galaxy-spanning installations millions of years before humanity evolved. They left behind weapons, constructs, and technology we're still trying to understand. Sound familiar? The implications settled over the room like a physical weight. Two realities. Two human civilizations. Both inheriting ancient legacies they struggled to comprehend. Both fighting impossible odds for survival. Okay, Sheppard said slowly, that's either the universe's worst coincidence or something way above our pay grade. But right now, we've got immediate problems. Rodney, how long before Wraith sensors detect Infinity? Already happening, McKay reported grimly, pulling up long-range sensor data. 3 hive ships on the edge of this sector just altered course. Their heading suggests investigation, not immediate attack, but that'll change when they get close enough for detailed scans. We have maybe 18 hours before they arrive. Then we move fast, Chief stated. Captain Lasky, do you copy? The comm channel opened immediately. Go ahead, Chief. Sir, recommend Condition 2 defensive posture. Potential hostile contact in 18 hours. 3 capital ships, organic hulls, unknown capabilities. Request permission to transport Atlantis command staff to Infinity for strategic coordination. Permission granted. Pelican is standing by for immediate dust-off. Chief, what are we dealing with? Master Chief looked at the holographic Wraith hive ships, at the ancient city that had pulled them across realities, at the determined faces of people who'd been fighting a losing war for years. Sir, we're dealing with a species that makes the Covenant look merciful. And they're about to discover that humanity brought something new to their galaxy. Then let's make sure they remember it, Lasky replied. Infinity out. Sheppard stood, checking his P90 with practiced efficiency. Looks like you're getting that ship tour sooner than expected, McKay. Try not to break anything while asking invasive questions about their reactor design. I make no promises, McKay muttered, already calculating how UNSC technology might integrate with ancient systems. As they moved toward the transport chamber, Taylor caught Chief's attention. Master Chief, a question, in your long war, did you ever face a moment when you thought all was lost? Chief's visor turned toward her, reflecting the ancient city that had become these people's home and fortress. Many times. And yet you prevailed. How? By refusing to accept any other outcome. His voice carried the weight of countless battles, impossible odds, and the simple stubborn determination that defined Spartans. And by never fighting alone. Ronan clapped a massive hand on Chief's armored shoulder, servo motors compensating for the impact. You'll fit in fine here, Spartan. The Pelican's engines were already warming when they reached the jumper bay. Above them, Infinity's weapons tracking painted invisible lines across the stars, waiting for threats to emerge from Pegasus's depths. Somewhere in the dark between worlds, Wraith sensors detected unusual energy signatures and old hunger stirred. New prey had entered the feeding grounds. The siege was already beginning. The Pelican's troop bay hummed with controlled tension as it climbed through Atlantis's atmosphere toward the UNSC Infinity. Sheppard sat across from Master Chief, watching the Spartan's helmet track micro-movements with inhuman precision. McKay had plastered himself against the viewport, muttering calculations about hull composition and structural integrity that nobody else could follow. Taylor maintained diplomatic composure while Ronan studied the Pelican's interior with the interest of a man cataloging potential weapons. First time off-world in something that isn't a puddle jumper? Chief asked Sheppard. First time in something that doesn't have ancient technology doing the heavy lifting, Sheppard replied, feeling the Pelican's engines work against gravity through pure mechanical thrust. Your people built this without Nequata reactors, without any crystalline power systems. Fusion reactors. Magnetic confinement, deuterium fuel cycle. The technology scaled up from 21st century principles. Chief's HUD showed atmospheric exit in 30 seconds. We learned to work with what we had. The Pelican broke atmosphere and Infinity filled the viewport. McKay actually gasped. Sweet mother of, Sheppard, that ship is generating a magnetic field strong enough to deflect micrometeorite impacts across its entire hull surface. The power requirements alone would drain an Nequata generator in hours, but they're sustaining it indefinitely. And those are magnetic accelerator cannons, they're launching projectiles at fractions of light speed using electromagnetic rails. It's so beautifully primitive and so devastatingly effective that I'm having trouble processing the engineering philosophy. Primitive? Palmer's voice carried an edge. Primitive in the best possible way, McKay amended quickly. No exotic particles, no subspace manipulation, just pure physics applied with terrifying efficiency. It's like watching someone win a sword fight with a really, really well-made club. Sheppard caught Chief's visor turning slightly, the Spartan equivalent of an amused glance. Dr. McKay, when we dock, try not to insult the ship's engineering crew within the first 5 minutes. I make no promises. The Pelican slid into Infinity's ventral hangar bay, magnetic clamps engaging with metallic precision. The rear hatch opened onto a flight deck that stretched farther than Atlantis's largest jumper bay. Longsword interceptors sat in launch cradles. Pelicans lined up in neat rows. Marines in full combat gear ran drills that would make the SGC's best look undisciplined. And everywhere, the quiet efficiency of a crew that had seen real war. Captain Thomas Lasky waited at the deck's command platform, flanked by officers whose uniforms carried decorations Sheppard didn't recognize but understood instinctively. Combat service markers, fleet engagement ribbons, the weight of survival through impossible odds. Colonel Sheppard, Lasky extended his hand, grip firm but not aggressive. Welcome aboard Infinity. I wish the circumstances were better. Captain. Sheppard assessed Lasky with an operator's eye, young for commanding a ship this size, but carrying himself with earned authority. Impressive vessel. Your chief engineer must be either genius or insane. Commander Christoph would say both. Lasky gestured toward the corridor. Conference room is this way. I've assembled senior staff. We need to understand exactly what we're facing before those Wraith arrive. They moved through corridors that thrummed with power, past crew stations monitoring systems Sheppard had no reference for. The scale was staggering. Infinity wasn't just a warship, it was a mobile military installation carrying enough personnel to populate a small city. The conference room's holoprojectors made even ancient technology look understated. A full three-dimensional tactical display materialized, showing Pegasus Galaxy in stunning detail with Infinity's position marked in UNSC blue. Commander Palmer stood at tactical, her armor removed to reveal a woman who looked like she could bench press a Wraith and enjoy it. Beside her, a man in engineering gold with tired eyes and grease-stained hands, Commander Christoph, studied readouts that made McKay lean forward with predatory interest. Sit rep, Lasky ordered, taking position at the head of the table. Chief stood at attention. Sir, Atlantis expedition confirmed our position as Pegasus Galaxy, approximately 3 million light-years from Earth. Local human population descended from ancient seeding approximately 10,000 years ago. Current dominant species are the Wraith, parasitic humanoid lifeforms that feed on human life force. Estimated hostile fleet strength in the hundreds to thousands of capital ships. 3 hive ships inbound to our position, ETA 17 hours. Atlantis expedition has offered alliance and intelligence sharing. Lasky's expression didn't change, but his knuckles whitened slightly on the table edge. Thousands of capital ships. Commander Christoph, status on slipspace drive repairs. Christoph's laugh was bitter. Captain, the Shaw Fujikawa drive didn't just malfunction, it shattered fundamental principles of physics we've relied on since the 2290s. The dimensional coordinates inverted, the slipspace rupture should have torn us apart at the molecular level, but something cushioned the transition. Something external. He pulled up data that made McKay inhale sharply. The residual particle signatures match exotic matter I've never seen before. Ancient technology, according to Dr. McKay here, though he's been admirably restrained in not asking 17,000 questions. 18,000, McKay corrected. But I'm waiting for the appropriate moment. Commander, that exotic matter, we call it Naquata. Superconductive mineral, massive energy storage potential. The ancients built their entire technological civilization around it. If your drive interacted with our dimensional beacon, the Naquata particles might have created a harmonic resonance that bridged quantum realities through induced spatial inversion, Christoph finished. Yes, I've been running the same calculations. Which means to repair the drive and get home, we need to recreate those exact conditions. In a galaxy we don't understand, using technology we've never studied, while under attack from hostile forces that outnumber us by orders of magnitude. Silence settled. Then Ronan spoke, voice carrying the certainty of someone who'd survived impossible odds through stubbornness alone. So you're stuck here. Welcome to Pegasus. Lasky met Ronan's gaze levelly. We don't accept stuck, Mr. Dex. We accept temporary complications requiring innovative solutions. I like him, Ronan told Sheppard. Palmer brought up tactical displays showing Wraith hive ships. Colonel Sheppard, walk me through their combat capabilities. Weapons, shields, maneuverability. Everything. Sheppard stepped to the display, military professionalism taking over. Hive ships are organic, which means they regenerate battle damage given time. Main weapons are particle beam cannons, high energy output, moderate range. Dart fighters carry culling beams that dematerialize targets and store them in a digital buffer for later feeding. They coordinate telepathically, which makes jamming ineffective. No energy shields we've detected, but the hull density is impressive. No shields. Palmer's smile was predatory. MAC rounds will punch through organic matter like tissue paper. Maybe, Sheppard cautioned. But they've adapted to every weapon system thrown at them for 10,000 years. Don't assume they're easy prey. Taylor moved to the tactical display, her fingers tracing the hive ship configurations with intimate knowledge. The Wraith are ancient, cunning, and patient. They view humans as food, nothing more. They will study you first, assess your capabilities, then attack when they believe victory is certain. Do not mistake their initial caution for weakness. How do they track targets? Chief asked, tactical mind already running scenarios. Life signs detection, energy signature analysis, subspace sensors, McKay answered. The darts are particularly nasty, they can track individual humans across a planetary surface using bioelectric field detection. We've learned to mask our signatures with ancient shielding technology, but Infinity's reactor output is probably broadcasting your position across half the galaxy. Christoph pulled up Infinity's power signature. Fusion reactors running at 30% capacity are outputting more raw energy than your ancient city's baseline consumption. We're a beacon. Then we use that, Chief stated. We know they're coming. We choose the engagement zone. We set the terms. Lasky studied the Spartan with new appreciation. You're suggesting we bait them in. I'm suggesting we make sure their first encounter with UNSC technology is memorable enough that they reconsider easy prey assumptions. Sheppard grinned. I'm starting to really like you Spartans. But there's something you need to understand about the Wraith, they don't just want to kill you. They want to feed on you. Specifically, they want to drain your life force until you're ancient and desiccated. It's personal, it's horrifying, and it's how they've traumatized this galaxy for millennia. Can they feed through armor? Palmer asked. Unknown, Taylor admitted. We have never encountered soldiers with technology like yours. But the Wraith feeding mechanism is biological, not technological. If they can make physical contact. Chief's HUD ran simulations. Mjolnir shields could potentially disrupt biological energy transfer, but he'd need field data to confirm. The alternative was discovering the hard way that Spartans were as vulnerable as anyone else to having decades drained in seconds. Then close-quarters combat is to be avoided, Lasky decided. Palmer, work with Colonel Sheppard on tactical coordination. If we're fighting alongside Atlantis, I want seamless communication protocols and zero friendly fire incidents. Commander Christoph, work with Dr. McKay on power systems integration. If ancient technology can interface with our reactors. It can, McKay interrupted. Well, theoretically. Probably. Maybe. I'd need to study your systems, run compatibility tests, possibly jury-rig a control interface using crystalline matrices to translate magnetic confinement parameters into Naquata resonance frequencies. Which means yes with complications, Christoph translated. Captain, give me 48 hours with Dr. McKay and I can probably boost reactor efficiency by 20% using their power distribution principles. You have 18 hours before combat, Lasky corrected. Make it count. The tactical display updated, showing 3 Wraith Hive ships accelerating toward Atlantis's position. The vectors were clear: intercept course, aggressive approach pattern. They knew something new had entered their territory, and they were coming to investigate. Chief studied the display with the focus that had carried him through 30 years of war. 3 capital ships. Unknown exact capabilities but established tactical doctrine. Infinity had superior firepower and defenses, but was stationary and protecting a city full of civilians. Wraith had numbers, experience in this theater, and telepathic coordination. Captain, Chief said quietly, I recommend we deploy Spartan fire teams to Atlantis. If those hives launch darts and attempt ground assault, the city needs defenders who can hold against superhuman combatants. Agreed. Palmer, organize rotation. Spartans embed with Atlantis security, learn their systems, establish defensive perimeters. Lasky turned to Sheppard. Colonel, we're putting our best in your city. I trust you'll brief them on ancient technology protocols. We'll get them up to speed, Sheppard promised. Fair warning, some of our tech is temperamental. And sentient. And occasionally homicidal. We've worked with Forerunner constructs, Palmer said. We can adapt. McKay was already lost in his tablet, comparing UNSC and ancient engineering principles with the manic energy of someone who'd found his intellectual soulmate in Commander Christoph. Ronan had gravitated toward the weapons displays, studying UNSC's small arms with professional interest. Taylor stood at the viewport, looking out at the stars with an expression that suggested she was already planning how to explain humanity's new allies to the scattered human settlements across Pegasus. Colonel Sheppard, Lasky said as the meeting broke up, officers moving to their stations with urgent purpose. Honest assessment, what are our odds? Sheppard looked at Infinity's vast corridors, at the Spartans preparing for deployment, at the sheer brutal efficiency of a civilization that had fought genocidal aliens for 3 decades and refused to die. Captain, in Pegasus, we've learned that survival isn't about odds. It's about refusing to quit. You and your people. You'll fit right in. Master Chief checked his motion tracker as Spartan fire teams assembled in the hangar bay. Spartans who'd fought Covenant elites, flood horrors, and Promethean constructs. Warriors forged in fire and impossible odds. Now they'd face something new, an ancient enemy that viewed humanity as cattle. Spartans, Chief's voice carried across the bay. We're 3 million light-years from home in a galaxy that's never seen us coming. The enemy feeds on humans and has been doing it for 10,000 years. They think we're prey. He paused, letting the silence build. Let's educate them. Acknowledgements rippled through the assembled warriors. Armor systems powered up, weapons were checked with mechanical precision, and the quiet determination that defined Spartans settled over the bay like armor plate. The Pelicans fired their engines. The first deployment to an ancient city began. And somewhere in the dark between stars, Wraith Queens tasted something new in the telepathic network, the flavor of prey that might bite back. The Spartan fire teams materialized across Atlantis like ghosts in Mjolnir armor, taking positions that made the city's marine contingent look like enthusiastic amateurs. Major Lorne watched with professional appreciation as a 4-man team established overlapping fields of fire across the East Pier in under 90 seconds, motion trackers painting 3-dimensional threat assessment across HUDs that made Atlantis's ancient sensors look like vintage technology. They move like Wraith warriors, Taylor observed from the control room balcony, watching Spartans flow through corridors with predatory efficiency. But more disciplined. More controlled. They move like people who've been fighting extinction-level wars since childhood, Sheppard corrected, checking the tactical display where Master Chief's IFF beacon pulsed in the armory. Rodney, please tell me you're not trying to hack Spartan armor while they're still wearing it. In the ancient laboratory 3 levels down, McKay didn't look up from the Mjolnir helmet Commander Christoph had provided for study. I'm not hacking, I'm analyzing. There's a difference. And Sheppard, this is beautiful, the neural interface uses quantum entanglement for zero latency response time. The shield generator is creating a coherent energy barrier without any Naquata enhancement. It's like they solved all our power efficiency problems by just being incredibly stubborn about fundamental physics. Christoph laughed from his position at a jury-rigged workstation where ancient crystals interfaced with UNSC data pads through connections that shouldn't work but somehow did. Dr. McKay, you've just summarized 400 years of human engineering philosophy. When the Covenant started glassing colonies, we didn't have time for elegant solutions. We needed weapons that worked yesterday. And you built them, McKay said with genuine admiration. Magnetic accelerator cannons that can crack a planet, armor that makes the wearer into a one-person tactical unit, ships that can fight entire fleets. Meanwhile, we're still trying to figure out how the ancients made their coffee makers work. To be fair, Christoph gestured at the ancient laboratory around them. They had 10 million years and ascended to energy beings. We had 3 decades and desperation. The proximity alarm interrupted their technical bonding session. Every display in Atlantis suddenly painted red. Contact, Major Lorne's voice crackled across citywide comms. 3 Wraith Hive ships dropping out of hyperspace at the system's edge. Range, 2 million kilometers and closing. Dart launch detected, initial count shows 60+ fighters inbound. Sheppard was already moving, P-90 in hand as he sprinted for the control room. Battle stations. All personnel to defensive positions. Somebody get me a comm line to Infinity. Master Chief's voice cut through the chaos with mechanical comm. Spartans, defensive protocol Delta. Rooftop positions, prepare for dart intercept. Marine contingent, fall back to secondary hardpoints. Ancient drone defense system, do we have control? Drones are online, a technician reported, fingers dancing across ancient interfaces. Chair is occupied and responding. In the control chair, Lieutenant Morrison, one of the few Atlantis personnel with the ancient gene strong enough for weapons control, felt the city's vast arsenal wake beneath his consciousness. Hundreds of drones waiting in their bays, each one a precisely guided missile capable of tracking multiple targets through impossible maneuvers. The holographic display showed the tactical situation in crystalline clarity. 3 Wraith hives advancing in formation, dart swarms deploying in coordinated attack patterns. Classic Wraith doctrine. Probe defenses with expendable fighters, assess response capability, then commit capital ships once vulnerabilities were identified. Infinity, this is Atlantis Actual, Sheppard transmitted. We have incoming hostiles. 60 darts minimum, 3 hives holding at 2 million clicks. Recommend you engage at maximum effective range. Captain Lasky's voice was pure military precision. Copy that, Atlantis. Infinity is weapons hot. MAC capacitors charged. Archer missile pods armed. We see them. A pause. Colonel, are those ships seriously made of organic tissue? Confirmed. They regenerate damage, so sustained fire works better than single devastating strikes. Understood. Infinity engaging. On Infinity's bridge, tactical displays showed targeting solutions locked on all 3 hive ships. Commander Palmer stood at weapons control, fingers hovering over firing commands that would unleash violence the Wraith had never experienced. Captain, MAC guns ready. We have clean firing solutions on all 3 targets. Lasky studied the formation with the tactical acumen that had kept Infinity alive through the created crisis. The hives were holding position, letting the dart scout ahead. Textbook cautious doctrine. They'd underestimated humanity before, specifically this version of humanity. Fire, Lasky ordered. All forward batteries. The magnetic accelerator cannon spoke. 3 tungsten carbide slugs, each massing 3,000 tons, accelerated to 4% of light speed down electromagnetic rails that ran half of Infinity's length. The kinetic energy release when they hit would make nuclear weapons look subtle. The Wraith Hive commanders had perhaps 2 seconds of warning before physics arrived with prejudice. The first MAC round punched through the lead hive ship's forward section like it was tissue paper, the hypervelocity impact creating a cavitation wave that liquefied organic matter for 200 meters in every direction. The hive ship's biological system screamed, trying to compensate for catastrophic structural failure as atmosphere explosively decompressed through a hole you could fly a dart through. The second and third rounds hit the flanking hives with identical devastating precision. Organic armor that had weathered ancient drone strikes for millennia simply ceased to exist under kinetic bombardment that released more energy than stellar flares. On Atlantis, every sensor technician watched in stunned silence as the Wraith formation, which had seemed so menacing seconds ago, suddenly had 3 very large holes where there had been ship. What the hell was that? Lorne breathed. McKay checked his readings 3 times, certain the sensors were malfunctioning. That was approximately 300 gigajoules of kinetic energy delivered in under 2 seconds. They just shot slugs of metal at relativistic speeds, and, oh my god, it's so simple and so devastatingly effective that I'm actually angry we didn't think of it. Ronan's smile was absolutely feral. I like their weapons. The Wraith hives reeled, organic systems struggling to regenerate from damage that had punched clean through their hulls. Telepathic communication across the fleet erupted in confusion. This wasn't ancient technology, wasn't any weapons system in their 10,000-year experience. The prey had brought something new. Hive ships are regenerating, Palmer reported. Organic repair mechanisms engaging. Structural integrity recovering at approximately 5% per minute. Then we don't give them time, Lasky decided. Archer pods, ripple fire. Saturate those wound channels before they conceal. Archer missile pods across Infinity's hull opened like lethal flowers. 60 missiles per pod, 12 pods, 720 missiles total. Each one a shape-charged warhead designed to exploit the breaches the MAC rounds had created. The missiles streaked across the void in formations that would make any Covenant fleet commander respect the lethality. They didn't all hit. Wraith point defense was formidable, organic weapon ports tracking and destroying incoming ordnance with practiced efficiency. But you couldn't stop 700 missiles when your structural integrity was already compromised. Explosions rippled through the lead hive's interior, secondary detonations as organic systems ruptured. The ship listed, its regeneration systems overwhelmed by cascading failures. Lead hive is breaking formation, Tactical reported. Heading vector suggests retreat to hyperspace range. Denied, Lasky said coldly. MAC guns, target their hyperspace drive sections. Disable only, I want at least one alive for intelligence gathering. The dorsal MAC batteries fired, precisely targeted rounds that destroyed the organic hyperspace organs the Wraith used for FTL travel. The lead hive shuddered, trapped in normal space with no escape route. On Atlantis, the dart swarms had accelerated to attack speed, 60 fighters screaming toward the city at velocities that pushed even their organic systems. But they were flying into a combined defense network that had never existed before in Pegasus. Ancient drones launching, Morrison announced, his consciousness merged with the city's weapons. 20 drones spiraled from their bays, each one locking onto individual darts with targeting precision that made modern missiles look clumsy. The drones moved like liquid silver, impossible turns at impossible speeds. Dart pilots tried evasive maneuvers that had defeated human defenses for millennia, meant nothing to weapons designed by a species that had mastered inertial manipulation. Drones found darts. Darts became expanding clouds of organic debris. Spartan teams, targets inbound, Master Chief transmitted from his rooftop position. His motion tracker painted incoming darts that had broken through the drone screen, diving toward the city at attack speed. Engage at will. Mjolnir-clad Spartans opened fire with M395 DMRs, 14.5mm rounds that could punch through Wraith armor like it was cardboard. Darts that had survived ancient drones flew into a hurricane of precisely aimed kinetic fire from soldiers whose enhanced reflexes and neural interfaces made them nearly impossible to evade. A dart exploded 50 meters above the east pier. Another spiraled into the ocean, pilot dead before impact. A third attempted to deploy its culling beam. Master Chief put 3 rounds through its ventral weapons port and watched it fragment. "They're breaking off," Palmer observed from Infinity's tactical station. Dart squadrons retreating to the hives. Hive ships attempting to withdraw to hyperspace range. 2 of them can still jump, Lasky noted, watching the wounded lead hive drift while its companions accelerated away. "Let them go. Let them report what they found here." Sheppard understood immediately. "You want them to spread the word that humanity has new teeth." "Exactly. Colonel, the Wraith have been apex predators in this galaxy for 10,000 years. Apex predators get complacent. They need to learn that the food chain just got complicated." The 2 functional hive ships flickered and vanished into hyperspace, fleeing with information that would spread through the Wraith telepathic network like wildfire. The crippled lead hive hung in space, organic systems shutting down as catastrophic damage finally overwhelmed regeneration capacity. "Atlantis, Infinity," Lasky transmitted. "We're sending Marines to board that hive. Secure any intelligence we can recover. With your permission, we'd like Atlantis personnel embedded with the boarding teams. You know what to look for in Wraith technology." Sheppard was already selecting his team. "Ronan, Taylor, gear up. McKay, you're with us. We're about to get a very close look at Wraith architecture courtesy of UNSC boarding doctrine." "Oh good," McKay muttered. "My favorite thing, walking through structurally compromised organic horror shows with people who think, cautious approach, means breaking down the door slightly quieter." Master Chief's voice cut across the channel. "Colonel Sheppard, request permission to lead the Spartan boarding element." "Granted. Chief, fair warning, Wraith ships are designed to be confusing. Lots of organic corridors that all look the same, lots of places for wounded Wraith to hide and ambush. And they're tougher than they look." "Understood. Spartans have experience with boarding hostile vessels. We'll adapt." 20 minutes later, 2 Pelicans and a Puddle Jumper approached the dying hive ship. The organic hull still twitched occasionally, autonomic reflexes firing as biological systems failed. Breach points gaped where MAC rounds had punched through, edges trying futilely to regenerate. Master Chief stood in the lead Pelican's troop bay, checking his MA-5D1 final time. Around him, Spartan fire teams performed identical weapons checks with mechanical precision. Across from him, Sheppard sat with his P-90, looking far too relaxed for someone about to board a ship full of potentially hostile aliens. "First time boarding a living ship?" Sheppard asked. "First time boarding a living ship that's actively dying," Chief corrected. "Covenant cruisers were bad enough. At least those didn't bleed." "Oh, Wraith ships definitely bleed," Ronan said with satisfaction. "Just wait." The Pelican slid through the breach into internal corridors that pulsed with bioluminescent light. Organic matter coated every surface, some of it still twitching. The smell that hit them when the hatches opened was indescribable, alien biology in catastrophic failure. "Motion tracker contact," Chief reported. "Multiple bogies, corridor ahead, 40 meters. Wraith warriors," Taylor confirmed. "Wounded but still dangerous." The boarding teams advanced through corridors that seemed designed by Nightmare, Mjolnir armor sensors cutting through darkness while P-90s swept for targets. The Wraith attacked from alcoves and side passages, organic armor soaking damage until Spartan marksmen put rounds through feeding organs or cranial structures. They found the ship's intelligence core 3 levels deep, an organic chamber where neural pathways converged in patterns that made McKay simultaneously fascinated and nauseated. "This is their data storage," McKay explained, scanning the pulsing organic matter with his ancient scanner. "It's biological memory encoded in synaptic structures. If we can extract samples before complete necrosis, we might get fleet positions, hive locations, tactical data." "Do it fast," Chief interrupted. "We have more contacts approaching. Lots more." The surviving Wraith crew were making their last stand, wounded warriors converging on the intelligence core to prevent its capture. The corridor ahead filled with pale figures, hands glowing with the organic energy they used for feeding attacks. Spartans, form up, Chief ordered. Overlapping fields of fire. Nothing gets past this position. The Wraith charged. They died. UNSC training met 10,000 years of Wraith combat experience, and UNSC training won through superior firepower, better armor, and warriors who'd fought things significantly more terrifying than vampire aliens. Master Chief put down 3 Wraith with controlled burst fire, his enhanced reflexes tracking targets through the chaos while his shields absorbed feeding attempts that would have killed normal humans. Beside him, Ronan fought with the savage joy of someone finally facing enemies on even terms, particle magnum blowing Wraith apart with each precisely aimed shot. Sheppard worked his P-90 with professional efficiency, years of gate team experience translating seamlessly to ship boarding operations. 10 minutes later, the corridor was secure. McKay had his samples. The boarding team withdrew as the hive's biological systems began final shutdown sequence. Back on Infinity, Captain Lasky watched the derelict hive begin its slow tumble toward the system's star. Status report. 0 friendly casualties, Palmer reported with satisfaction. Wraith casualties estimated at 200 plus. Intelligence samples secured. Dr. McKay is already analyzing biological memory structures. She paused. Captain, the Spartans want to know if we're keeping the organic ship samples or if that violates some kind of ancient preservation protocol. Lasky glanced at Sheppard, who just returned to Infinity's bridge. Colonel. The Wraith have been keeping organic ships as war crimes for 10,000 years, Sheppard said flatly. Study whatever you want. Blow the rest into atoms. Nobody will complain. Master Chief stood at the tactical display, armor still showing scorch marks from Wraith feeding attempts. His shields had held, Mjolnir technology had successfully defended against the galaxy's most terrifying biological weapon. That data alone was invaluable. Captain, Chief said quietly, the Wraith are dangerous, but they're predictable. They rely on intimidation, biological superiority, and numerical advantage. All factors we can counter with UNSC doctrine and Atlantis technology integration. You're suggesting coordinated operations, Lasky said. I'm suggesting we stop fighting separate wars and start fighting one war together. Chief turned to Sheppard. Colonel, your people know this galaxy. We have the firepower to change the tactical balance. Combined, we might actually win this. Sheppard looked at the Spartan, at the warship that had arrived from another reality, at the opportunity neither of them had expected. Chief, I think this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship. Indeed. The war room aboard Infinity had transformed into something unprecedented, a fusion of UNSC tactical doctrine and ancient strategic planning where holographic displays showed Pegasus Galaxy painted in threat assessments that made even Lasky's experienced staff look grim. Dr. McKay stood beside Commander Kristoff at a combined workstation, both men arguing about power distribution principles while simultaneously solving problems neither could have managed alone. The biological memory samples are yielding data, McKay announced, pulling up Wraith neural patterns that translated into galactic coordinates. Hive fleet positions, feeding ground schedules, territorial boundaries between different Wraith factions, it's like we just hacked their entire strategic database. Sheppard leaned over the display, recognizing coordinates with sinking familiarity. That's the Hoffen settlement. And that cluster there, those are planets we've been trying to protect for 3 years. The Wraith have had them marked for culling this entire time. They track human populations like livestock, Taylor said, her voice tight with controlled fury. Breeding schedules, optimal culling intervals, population density targets. We always knew they saw us as food. Seeing it quantified like this. Master Chief studied the data with Spartan detachment, but something in the rigid set of his armored shoulder suggested anger held in check. They're farmers. Efficient, methodical, and they've had 10,000 years to perfect their methods. Colonel Sheppard, how many human worlds in Pegasus? Hundreds in this sector alone. Galaxy-wide? Thousands, maybe tens of thousands. Most at pre-industrial tech levels because the Wraith cull any civilization that gets too advanced. Forced regression, Palmer said flatly. Keep the prey weak, scattered, and terrified. Covenant did something similar with species they considered useful but inferior. Ronan's hand clenched on his particle magnum. I've been running from Wraith for 7 years. Watched them cull my homeworld, turn my people into their experiment subjects. Every day, wondering if this would be the day they found me again. He looked at the Spartans with new understanding. You fought for 30 years. How did you keep going? By remembering what we were fighting for, Chief replied. And by making the enemy pay for every inch. Mr. Dex, you've been fighting smart, stay mobile, avoid direct confrontation, survive to fight another day. That works when you're alone. But you're not alone anymore. Lasky brought up a strategic overlay showing Infinity's current position, Atlantis' location, and the scattered human settlements within their operational radius. Gentlemen, lady, we need to establish operational parameters. Infinity is combat capable but stranded without slipspace repairs. We have limited ammunition reserves, no resupply line, and we're sitting in the middle of a galaxy that just learned we exist. Commander Christoph, realistic timeline for getting us home? Christoph exchanged glances with McKay, both men wearing identical expressions of scientific uncertainty. Captain, the theoretical framework exists, we need to recreate the dimensional resonance that brought us here, which requires ancient technology we're still learning to interface with. Best case scenario, 6 months. Worst case, we're looking at years of research and multiple failed attempts. Which means Infinity is now a Pegasus asset, Sheppard said. Captain Lasky, I'm not going to lie to you, the Wraith outnumber us by margins that make tactical victory look impossible. But we've been holding them off with puddle jumpers and ancient drones. You just proved that UNSC firepower can hurt them badly. If we coordinate properly, we could shift from defensive survival to strategic offense, Lasky finished. I see where you're going, Colonel. But Infinity can't defend the entire galaxy. We need to prioritize targets that provide maximum strategic value. The holographic display shifted, McKay and Christoph working in tandem to overlay tactical projections. Human settlements appeared as blue markers, Wraith Hive territories in red, known Wraith Hive ship positions as pulsing crimson threats. The Wraith operate in loose territorial alliances, Taylor explained, manipulating the display with practiced ease. Queens compete for feeding grounds, form temporary coalitions, then betray each other when advantageous. Their greatest weakness is internal politics. If we can exploit that, we turn their numbers against them, Palmer said with dawning realization. Classic divide and conquer. Make one faction think another is getting too powerful, watch them tear each other apart. The enemy of my enemy is still my enemy, but temporarily useful, Ronan agreed. I like it. McKay pulled up sensor data from the engagement. The 2 hives that escaped are spreading information through the Wraith telepathic network. By now, every queen within 100 light-years knows that something hurt them badly. They'll be cautious, send scouts, try to gather intelligence before committing major forces. How long before they coordinate a serious response? Chief asked. Days, maybe weeks, Sheppard estimated. Wraith don't move fast unless there's immediate feeding opportunity. They'll study us, probe defenses, look for weaknesses. Standard apex predator behavior when encountering unknown threat. Lasky made a command decision with the certainty that had kept Infinity's crew alive through impossible situations. Then we use that time. We fortify Atlantis, establish patrol patterns, and we start hitting Wraith infrastructure. Supply depots, cloning facilities, isolated hives. We make them afraid to spread out, force them to consolidate, then exploit the openings we create. Aggressive defensive doctrine, Chief approved. Sir, recommend we establish forward operating bases on strategically significant worlds. Small Spartan teams with ancient technology support can hold against significant Wraith incursions while providing early warning for major attacks. The Athosians would welcome such protection, Taylor said. As with dozens of settlements we've established contact with. Many have lost faith that we can protect them. Seeing Spartans, seeing real military strength, might restore hope. McKay was already running calculations. If we can establish Naquata generator power supplies and shield emitters on key worlds, we create a defensive network. The Wraith would have to commit serious forces to crack each position, spreading their strength thin across multiple targets. And every target they hit, Palmer added, we hit them back harder. Spartans excel at asymmetric warfare. Small unit tactics, surgical strikes, maximum impact with minimal footprint. It's what we do. The strategic picture was taking shape, a combined UNSC Atlantis operation that would fundamentally alter Pegasus's balance of power. But Sheppard saw the problem neither military commander was acknowledging. There's a complication, Sheppard said. The IOA, International Oversight Advisory. They control Atlantis's supply line to Earth, approve all major operations, and they're going to have very strong opinions about allying with a military force from an alternate reality. Especially a military force with firepower that makes our Daedalus-class battlecruisers look underarmed. Lasky's expression suggested he was very familiar with bureaucratic oversight complicating military operations. Colonel, in my experience, politicians care about results. We just destroyed 3 Wraith hives with 0 friendly casualties. That's a result. The IOA will want control, Sheppard warned. They'll want Infinity under their command structure, Spartan teams following their protocols, UNSC technology shared on their terms. That's not happening, Lasky said flatly. Infinity answers to UNSC Fleet Command. In the absence of contact with Earth, our Earth, I retain operational authority. We'll coordinate with Atlantis as allies, not subordinates. Master Chief watched the byplay with the detached interest of someone who'd spent 3 decades navigating the intersection of military necessity and political reality. Captain, the Colonel has a point. We need Atlantis's knowledge and ancient technology access. They need our firepower and tactical capabilities. But if command authority becomes contested, then we establish clear operational boundaries, Lasky decided. Atlantis retains authority over ancient technology and gate operations. Infinity retains authority over UNSC personnel and vessel operations. Joint operations require coordination but not subordination. If the IOA doesn't like it, they're welcome to take it up with 3 million light-years of empty space. Ronan laughed. I definitely like him. The tactical display updated as long-range sensors detected movement in adjacent sectors. Wraith hive ships, multiple contacts, moving in formation that suggested coordination. Contact, the sensor officer reported. 6 hive ships, range 4 million kilometers, heading toward the Manaria system. That's one of the protected settlements. Manaria has 3,000 inhabitants, Taylor said immediately. Mostly farmers, minimal defenses. If the Wraith cull that world. They're probing, Chief assessed. Testing response times, seeing if we'll defend outlying settlements or concentrate forces at Atlantis. Classic reconnaissance by fire. Lasky studied the tactical geometry. Manaria is 2 hours away at Infinity's maximum sublight speed. By the time we arrive, the culling will be complete. He looked at Sheppard. Colonel, how fast are your puddle jumpers? Through hyperspace. We could be there in 20 minutes. Then we split forces. Atlantis sends jumpers through hyperspace to defend the settlement and evacuate civilians. Infinity follows at best speed to engage the hives once we arrive. Chief, I want Spartan teams on those jumpers. Show the Wraith what happens when prey shoots back. Master Chief was already moving, his armor's comm system organizing fire teams with practiced efficiency. Spartans, combat deployment. Gear up for hostile environment operations, expect heavy resistance. We're teaching the Wraith a new lesson: humanity doesn't cull easily. 20 minutes later, 3 Puddle Jumpers dropped out of hyperspace above Manaria. The agricultural world stretched below, peaceful fields and small settlements that had no idea death approached from the stars. But death had competition now. 6 Wraith hives hung in high orbit, dart swarms deploying for culling runs. The planet's population was already running, scrambling for whatever shelter they could find, knowing from bitter experience that culling beams didn't discriminate and Wraith feeding couldn't be reasoned with. The lead jumper, piloted by Sheppard with Master Chief in the co-pilot seat, activated its cloak and dove toward the planet's surface. Behind them, 2 more jumpers followed, each carrying Spartan fire teams and Atlantis personnel who knew the settlement layout. Darts inbound, Sheppard reported, watching the organic fighters descend like birds of prey. We've got maybe 5 minutes before they start beaming up civilians. Chief, your people ready? Master Chief checked his motion tracker, seeing Spartan IFF beacons arranged in the jumper's rear compartment. We're ready. Colonel, drop us on the settlement perimeter. We'll establish fire positions and engage darts on approach vectors. You're going to fight darts on foot? They're air superiority fighters. We're Spartans. Air superiority is negotiable. The jumper landed hard, rear hatch dropping as Mjolnir-clad warriors poured out with the precision of orbital drop shock troopers hitting contested landing zones. They spread across the settlement's edge, taking positions that provided clear sight lines to the sky while remaining concealed from aerial observation. Master Chief knelt behind a low stone wall, MA-5D braced, motion tracker painting incoming darts as hostile red diamonds. Beside him, Spartan 4 Sarah Palmer settled into firing position with her M395 DMR, enhanced reflexes calculating windage and target vectors before the darts even entered effective range. Contacts inbound, Palmer reported. 12 darts, staggered formation, approach from north-northeast. Hold fire, Chief ordered. Let them commit to attack runs. Target their ventral weapon ports, that's where the culling beams generate. The darts dove, organic fighters streaking toward the settlement with predatory confidence. They'd done this thousands of times, culled millions of humans who had no defense except prayer and hiding. They expected screaming, running, terror. They got UNSC marksmanship. 12 Spartans opened fire simultaneously, 14.5mm rounds reaching up to kiss darts that suddenly discovered they weren't invulnerable. Ventral weapon ports shattered. Organic armor splintered. Pilots died before they understood what was shooting at them. A dart exploded, organic systems ruptured by sustained fire from 3 different angles. Another spiraled out of control, pilot killed by a single precision shot from Palmer's DMR that found the cockpit through impossible geometry. A third attempted emergency evasive maneuvers. Chief tracked it through his Mjolnir's targeting system and put a burst directly through its propulsion organ. Splash 3, Palmer reported with satisfaction. Remaining darts breaking off. But the Wraith weren't stupid. The surviving darts climbed hard, regrouping out of effective small arms range. In orbit, the Hive commanders watched with growing concern. The humans below weren't running. They were fighting. And they were winning. Hives are launching additional darts, Sheppard transmitted from the cloaked jumper. Looks like 60+ inbound. Chief, you've got their attention. Good, Chief replied, watching his motion tracker fill with hostile contacts. Spartans, prepare for mass engagement. Conservative ammunition expenditure, prioritize targets attempting culling beam deployment. Let them learn slowly. The dart swarms descended like locusts, organic fighters saturating the air with numbers that should have overwhelmed any defensive position. Culling beams stabbed down, scanning for human life signs to dematerialize and store. They found Spartans instead. Mjolnir shields flared as culling beams attempted to lock onto targets that suddenly weren't there anymore. The Spartans moved with enhanced reflexes that made tracking nearly impossible. And while the darts searched for prey, the Spartans demonstrated why humanity had survived 30 years against the Covenant. Precision fire from 12 positions created overlapping kill zones that darts flew into and died. Every Spartan was a one-person anti-aircraft battery, enhanced eyesight and neural interfaces compensating for the dart's speed and maneuverability. They didn't need missiles or energy weapons, just extraordinary skill and the refusal to miss. The sky rained burning darts. In orbit, the Wraith Queens conferred through telepathic links, confusion and growing alarm spreading through the hive mind. This wasn't normal human resistance. This was something new, something dangerous. The prey had evolved. Hives are withdrawing, McKay reported from his sensor station aboard the distant Infinity. All 6 breaking orbit, heading for hyperspace range. They're running. Confirmation, Sheppard added. Darts breaking off, retreating to the hives. We're clear. Master Chief stood among the brass casings and destroyed darts, watching the Wraith flee for the first time in Pegasus's recorded history. Around him, Spartans performed ammunition checks and system diagnostics with mechanical efficiency. Palmer approached, helmet retracting to reveal a satisfied smile. Chief, we just defended a settlement against Wraith culling with small arms fire and attitude. The look on those dart pilots' faces when their shields didn't work and bullets did, that was poetry. It was a warning, Chief corrected. The Wraith just learned that humans can hurt them. Now they'll come back stronger, smarter, more coordinated. Good, Palmer said. I was worried this would be boring. The settlement's population emerged from hiding, staring at the Mjolnir-clad giants who descended from the sky and fought demons from ancient nightmares. An elder approached Chief cautiously, hope and disbelief warring in weathered features. The ancestors sent you, the elder said. After 10,000 years, they finally answered our prayers. Chief looked at the settlement, at the people who'd lived in terror for generations, at the darts burning in the fields. He thought about colonies glassed by the Covenant, civilians who'd prayed for Spartans to arrive in time, prayers that went unanswered because there were never enough Spartans and always too many planets to defend. We're not from the ancestors, Chief said quietly. We're just soldiers. But we're here now, and the Wraith won't find you easy prey anymore. The elder smiled through tears. Then the Wraith should be very afraid. Above Manaria, Infinity's massive bulk finally arrived in system, weapons hot and ready for engagement that was no longer necessary. On the bridge, Lasky watched the tactical display showing destroyed darts and retreating hives. Captain, Palmer transmitted, Manaria is secure. 0 civilian casualties. Wraith withdrew without engaging ground forces. Recommend we establish permanent defensive position here. Agreed, Lasky replied. Colonel Sheppard, welcome to combined operations. I think we just changed the rules in Pegasus. Master Chief looked up at the stars where Infinity hung like a promise, where Atlantis waited with technology that could turn the tide, where a galaxy that had known only culling and fear was learning that humanity, both versions, had decided enough was enough. The Wraith had ruled Pegasus for 10 millennia. That reign was ending. The operations center aboard Infinity had evolved into something resembling controlled chaos, UNSC officers coordinating with Atlantis personnel while holographic displays showed real-time intelligence from a dozen worlds simultaneously. Dr. McKay had effectively moved into Commander Kristoff's engineering bay, the 2 men existing in a state of perpetual technical argument that somehow produced breakthrough after breakthrough in ancient UNSC technology integration. The Naquata generator is interfacing with your fusion reactor, McKay explained, gesturing at jury-rigged connections that violated every engineering safety protocol from both civilizations. We're using ancient power distribution crystals to smooth the energy transfer, which means Infinity's reactor efficiency just increased by 32%. You're welcome. And our shield harmonics are now compatible with ancient drone guidance systems, Kristoff added, pulling up tactical projections. Which means Atlantis can provide fire support to Infinity without friendly fire risks. We've essentially created a hybrid defense network. Captain Lasky studied the engineering reports with the appreciation of someone who understood that wars were won through logistics and innovation as much as firepower. Commander, How long until we can extend this integration to the forward operating bases? Give me portable Naquata generators and a team of technicians who don't electrocute themselves, and I can have basic shield emitters operational within 48 hours per site. Christoph hesitated. Captain, there's something else. The ancient technology, it's responding to Spartan neural interfaces in ways we didn't anticipate. Master Chief stood at the tactical station, his Mjolnir armor interfacing directly with ancient systems through connections that shouldn't be possible. The control interface glowed beneath his gauntlet hand, responding to neural commands with the same fluidity it showed for gene-positive Atlantis personnel. The ancient gene requirement, McKay said, excitement bleeding into his voice despite his attempt at scientific detachment. It's not strictly genetic, it's neurological. The ancients built their technology to respond to specific brainwave patterns and bioelectric signatures. Spartan augmentations, particularly the neural interface implants, they're creating similar enough patterns that ancient tech is registering them as compatible. Which means Spartans can operate ancient technology, Sheppard realized, understanding the implications immediately. Puddle jumpers, weapon systems, shield generators, things that normally require the ATA gene. Not all ancient technology, McKay cautioned. The really advanced stuff still requires the full genetic markers. But basic systems? Yes, Spartans can interface. It's like the ancients and the UNSC Spartan program independently arrived at similar solutions for human enhancement. Chief considered this with the tactical focus that defines Spartans. If we can operate ancient weapons, that significantly expands our defensive capabilities. Colonel Sheppard, how many spare puddle jumpers does Atlantis have? 6 currently mothballed for lack of gene-positive pilots, Sheppard replied. You're suggesting we assign them to Spartan teams? Give me portable Naquata generators and a team of technicians who don't electrocute themselves, and I can have basic shield emitters operational within 48 hours per site. Christoph hesitated. Captain, there's something else. The ancient technology, it's responding to Spartan neural interfaces in ways we didn't anticipate. Master Chief stood at the tactical station, his Mjolnir armor interfacing directly with ancient systems through connections that shouldn't be possible. The control interface glowed beneath his gauntlet hand, responding to neural commands with the same fluidity it showed for gene-positive Atlantis personnel. The ancient gene requirement, McKay said, excitement bleeding into his voice despite his attempt at scientific detachment. It's not strictly genetic, it's neurological. The ancients built their technology to respond to specific brainwave patterns and bioelectric signatures. Spartan augmentations, particularly the neural interface implants, they're creating similar enough patterns that ancient tech is registering them as compatible. Which means Spartans can operate ancient technology, Sheppard realized, understanding the implications immediately. Puddle jumpers, weapon systems, shield generators, things that normally require the ATA gene. Not all ancient technology, McKay cautioned. The really advanced stuff still requires the full genetic markers. But basic systems? Yes, Spartans can interface. It's like the ancients and the UNSC Spartan program independently arrived at similar solutions for human enhancement. Chief considered this with the tactical focus that defines Spartans. If we can operate ancient weapons, that significantly expands our defensive capabilities. Colonel Sheppard, how many spare puddle jumpers does Atlantis have? 6 currently mothballed for lack of gene-positive pilots, Sheppard replied. You're suggesting we assign them to Spartan teams? I'm suggesting we turn Spartans into rapid response units with ancient technology support. Hyperspace-capable transport, drone weapons, cloaking systems, it multiplies our effectiveness by orders of magnitude. Lasky nodded slowly. Do it. Chief, work with Colonel Sheppard to train Spartan pilots on puddle jumper operations. Commander Christoph, prioritize getting those jumpers combat ready. The tactical display updated, showing new contacts entering the operational theater. Ronan moved to the holographic projection, his expression grim as he studied the signatures. Wraith Hive, Ronan identified. But not attacking. That's a scout pattern, they're mapping our defensive positions. They're learning, Taylor agreed, joining him at the display. The Queens have realized direct assault is costly. Now they probe, observe, adapt. It is what makes them such dangerous predators. Palmer leaned over the sensor station. We could engage now, drive them off before they complete their reconnaissance. No, Chief said. Let them watch. Let them see Infinity in orbit, see Spartans deploying, see the defensive network we're building. The more they learn about our capabilities, the more cautious they become. Caution means hesitation. Hesitation gives us time. The Chief's right, Sheppard agreed. The Wraith's greatest advantage has always been psychological, they terrify populations into paralysis before they ever fire a shot. If we can make them afraid, make them hesitate, we flip the equation. The Hive ship completed its reconnaissance pass and jumped to hyperspace, carrying data that would spread through the Wraith collective consciousness like infection. Information about humans who wore armor that shrugged off feeding attempts, about weapons that punched through organic hulls, about prey that coordinated across star systems with technology the Wraith hadn't seen in 10,000 years. The galaxy is changing, Taylor said softly, watching the Hive's hyperspace window collapse. For my entire life, the Wraith have been inevitable. Death from the stars that could not be fought, only survived. Now, for the first time, I see them retreat. I see them afraid. Fear is a weapon, Chief observed. The Covenant learned that when they realized Spartans didn't die easily. The Wraith will learn the same lesson. A communication channel opened, Dr. Weir's voice carrying diplomatic concern that made Sheppard wince. Colonel Sheppard, Captain Lasky, we have a situation. The IOA has just transmitted through the Earth Gate. They're demanding a full briefing on UNSC Infinity and requesting, she paused diplomatically, that Captain Lasky submit to IOA oversight regarding all operations in the Pegasus Galaxy. Lasky's expression remained neutral, but his jaw tightened microscopically. Dr. Weir, with all due respect to the IOA, Infinity doesn't answer to civilian oversight from an alternate reality's Earth. We'll coordinate as allies, but we're not subordinating UNSC command authority. I explained that, we're said with the patience of someone who'd spent years managing impossible diplomatic situations. They were not receptive. Colonel Sheppard, they're sending Richard Woolsey through the gate. He'll be here within the hour. Sheppard groaned. Woolsey. Of course it's Woolsey. The man who thinks regulations can solve problems that require shooting. Who's Woolsey? Palmer asked. IOA's primary representative to Atlantis, Sheppard explained. Brilliant administrator, follows protocol like it's religion, and has the tactical flexibility of a concrete wall. He means well, but he thinks every situation can be resolved through proper paperwork and committee review. I've met 100 Richard Woolseys, Lasky said. Every military command has civilian oversight that thinks war can be managed like a quarterly budget review. Chief, you'll accompany me to this meeting. The IOA needs to understand exactly what Spartans are and why UNSC protocols exist for very good reasons. Master Chief's visor reflected the tactical displays showing Wraith territories, human settlements, and the defensive network spreading across Pegasus. Understood, sir. How diplomatically do you want me to phrase, we've been fighting extinction wars for 30 years and don't need bureaucratic guidance? Let's start with implicit and escalate to explicit if necessary, Lasky replied with the faint smile of someone who'd navigated similar political minefields. An hour later, Richard Woolsey stepped through Atlantis's Stargate with the precise dignity of someone who believed proper procedure could resolve any crisis. He wore an immaculate suit that looked ridiculous in a city full of combat fatigues and Mjolnir armor, carried a tablet loaded with IOA regulations, and had the expression of someone prepared to impose order on chaos through sheer bureaucratic willpower. Dr. Weir met him in the gate room with the diplomatic warmth that concealed steel. Richard, welcome back to Atlantis. We have much to discuss. Indeed we do, Woolsey replied, adjusting his glasses as he studied the Spartan fire team positioned near the gate, armored giants who made the marine security detail look understated. Dr. Weir, I've reviewed the preliminary reports. An alternate reality warship, supersoldiers from a parallel Earth, engagement with Wraith forces resulting in multiple hive ship destructions. This raises questions about command authority, technology sharing protocols, and potential violations of. Mr. Woolsey, Captain Lasky interrupted, stepping forward with Master Chief at his side. Captain Thomas Lasky, UNSC Infinity. Before you continue citing regulations from a reality 3 million light-years away, perhaps we should establish some baseline facts. Woolsey studied Lasky with the assessing gaze of someone trained to evaluate authority structures. Captain Lasky, I understand you command the vessel currently in orbit. The IOA has concerns about a military asset they don't control operating in their jurisdiction, Lasky said bluntly. Mr. Woolsey, I respect civilian oversight. In my reality, I answer to UNSC Fleet Command and ultimately to the unified Earth government. But those command structures don't exist here. Which means Infinity operates under my authority as senior UNSC officer present, coordinating with Atlantis as allies fighting a common enemy. The IOA controls Atlantis's supply line, approves all major operations, and has oversight authority regarding ancient technology and Earth's resources, Sheppard interjected. Captain Lasky isn't using ancient technology, he's using UNSC technology that we pulled into this reality. The IOA doesn't have jurisdiction over equipment from alternate universes. Woolsey's expression suggested he was already composing regulations to address exactly that scenario. Colonel Sheppard, the legal ambiguity of interdimensional asset control notwithstanding, the IOA has legitimate concerns about coordinated military operations that could escalate Wraith aggression or escalate Wraith aggression. Ronan's voice cut through the conference room like a blade. The Wraith have been culling humans for 10,000 years. Exactly how much more aggressive can they get? They already treat us like cattle. At least now we're cattle with teeth. Master Chief spoke for the first time, his voice carrying the weight of 3 decades fighting impossible wars. Mr. Woolsey, I've read briefings on the Wraith threat. In UNSC terminology, you're facing strategic extinction-level opposition with limited resources, minimal defensive infrastructure, and no clear path to victory. The IOA's concern about escalation suggests they don't understand that you're already at maximum threat level. The Wraith can't become more dangerous, they can only become more cautious. Woolsey studied the Spartan with new assessment. Master Chief, that's your rank. Master Chief Petty Officer John, 117, UNSC Navy Special Warfare Command. You're a super soldier. Enhanced beyond normal human parameters, trained from childhood, designed as a weapon. Woolsey's tone wasn't accusatory, just analytical. The ethical implications. Kept humanity alive, Chief stated flatly. The Covenant killed 23 billion humans. The Spartan program cost 75 children their normal lives. The mathematics of acceptable sacrifice aren't complicated, Mr. Woolsey. We saved species-level extinction through methods you find ethically questionable. Would you prefer we didn't exist and humanity died honorably? Silence fell. Woolsey's expression flickered, recognition that he was arguing theory against someone who'd lived the brutal reality of survival-level warfare. I'm not questioning your effectiveness, Master Chief, Woolsey said carefully. I'm questioning the precedent of conducting major military operations in Pegasus without IOA oversight. What happens when Captain Lasky decides a target is strategically valuable but the IOA disagrees? What happens when UNSC methods conflict with Atlantis protocols? Then we coordinate like adults, Lasky said. Mr. Woolsey, Infinity doesn't take orders from the IOA. But we're not interested in creating command conflicts. Colonel Sheppard and I have established operational cooperation. Atlantis provides intelligence and ancient technology expertise, Infinity provides firepower and UNSC tactical capabilities. Joint operations require mutual agreement. Solo operations stay within our respective spheres. And if the Wraith escalate in response to UNSC aggression, then we adapt, Sheppard said. Richard, we've been fighting a losing defensive war for 5 years. Infinity changes the tactical equation. For the first time, we can hit back meaningfully. The IOA can debate ethics and oversight, but people are dying in Cullings every day. If UNSC methods save lives, I'm not going to let bureaucracy kill people through inaction. Woolsey was quiet for a long moment, his analytical mind processing variables and political realities. Finally, he sighed. Dr. Weir, Colonel Sheppard, I'll report to the IOA that operational cooperation with UNSC Infinity is proceeding under established alliance protocols. But, he looked at Lasky directly, Captain, the IOA will be monitoring this situation closely. If UNSC operations destabilize the Pegasus Theater or create diplomatic complications, then I'll answer for it, Lasky said. Mr. Woolsey, I'm not asking for approval. I'm informing you as a courtesy that Infinity intends to defend human populations in Pegasus using UNSC methods and resources. You're welcome to observe, coordinate, or file objections. But we're not waiting for committee approval while people die. Woolsey nodded slowly. I understand, Captain. And for what it's worth, he glanced at the tactical displays showing defensive networks spreading across multiple worlds, the Wraith should be afraid. They've had this galaxy unopposed for far too long. McKay burst into the conference room, tablet clutched like a weapon, Christoph right behind him. We've got it. The slipspace mathematics, we can recreate the dimensional resonance. Well, theoretically. Probably. There's a 73% chance of success assuming we can stabilize the exotic particle cascade N. English, Rodney, Sheppard demanded. We can send Infinity home, McKay said. Maybe. Eventually. If everything works perfectly and nobody gets turned inside out at the quantum level. Lasky exchanged glances with Master Chief. Going home meant leaving Pegasus to fight alone. Staying meant abandoning any chance of reconnecting with UNSC Command, with Earth, their Earth. How long to implement? Lasky asked quietly. Months minimum, Christoph answered. We need to build specialized equipment, conduct test runs, refine the calculations. It's not a quick process, Captain. Then we have time to decide, Lasky said. Right now, we have a galaxy that needs defending and Wraith that need to learn respect. The decision about going home can wait until we've finished the mission here. Chief understood the unspoken implication. Spartans didn't abandon people who needed them. Not while the fight continued. Not while civilians died and defenders needed support. Sir, Chief said formally, recommend we continue defensive operations and technology integration. The mission in Pegasus isn't complete. Lasky smiled. Agreed, Chief. Mr. Woolsey, you can report to the IOA that UNSC Infinity is committed to Pegasus defense for the foreseeable future. We're not going anywhere. Outside the conference room, through Atlantis's massive windows, stars gleamed across the Pegasus night. Somewhere among those stars, Wraith Queens conferred about the impossible prey that fought back, about humans who wore armor and refused to die, about the changing galaxy where predators suddenly faced competition. The war was far from over. But for the first time in 10,000 years, the Wraith had reason to fear what lurked in the darkness between Cullings. The Wraith response came 3 weeks later with the cold precision of predators who'd spent millennia perfecting the art of overwhelming force. Long-range sensors detected the hyperspace windows first, not 3 hives this time, not 6, but 17 hive ships dropping into normal space at the edge of Atlantis's sensor range in a formation that spoke of coordinated strategy and serious intent. Contact. Major Lorne's voice carried across Atlantis's command center. Multiple hyperspace signatures, count is 17, correction, 19 hive ships. They're forming up at 6 million kilometers, holding position. Captain Lasky was already on the comm channel from Infinity's bridge. Atlantis, we're reading the same contacts. That's not a raiding force, that's an armada. They're preparing for siege operations. Sheppard studied the tactical hologram with the grim expression of someone who'd seen this pattern before, the Wraith committing overwhelming strength when they decided a target was worth the casualties. They're not probing anymore. They've assessed us, calculated the cost, and decided Atlantis is worth taking down regardless of losses. Master Chief stood at the tactical display, his Mjolnir armor's neural interface processing threat assessments that painted a picture even a Spartan found concerning. 19 hives meant thousands of Wraith warriors, hundreds of dart squadrons, and firepower sufficient to reduce Atlantis to rubble given time. What standard Wraith siege doctrine? Chief asked. Blockade first, Ronan answered, moving to the display. Cut off escape routes, prevent reinforcement. Then they soften defenses with dart strikes and long-range bombardment. Once shields are down, they land ground forces and feed on everyone they find. Takes days, sometimes weeks. They're patient when they want to be. Except we have Infinity, Palmer observed from her position coordinating Spartan deployments. 19 hives against one UNSC warship and an ancient city, the math isn't as favorable for them as they think. Don't underestimate them, Taylor warned. This is the largest coordinated Wraith fleet I have seen in 5 years. The Queens have put aside their rivalries to face what they perceive as existential threat. They will throw everything at us. McKay burst into the command center, tablet displaying power consumption projections that made everyone wince. Atlantis's shield can hold against sustained bombardment for approximately 72 hours before the ZPM depletes to critical levels. After that, we're relying on Naquata generators, which give us maybe another 12 hours. 84 hours total before we're defenseless. Then we don't let them bombard us for 84 hours, Lasky stated. Infinity moves to intercept. We engage at maximum range, force them to commit forces to dealing with us, take pressure off Atlantis. Captain, 19 hives against one ship, Commander Kristoff began. Are still just organic vessels with no shields and predictable tactics, Lasky finished. Commander, bring the MAC guns online. Full capacitor charge. Palmer, ready all Archer pods. We're about to teach these Wraith what happens when you bring knives to a MAC gun fight. Chief was already coordinating Spartan deployments through his neural interface. Spartan teams to defensive positions across Atlantis. Ancient drone systems armed and ready. Puddle Jumpers prepped for rapid deployment. If they breach the shield, they'll find every corridor contested. The tactical display showed Infinity breaking orbit, massive fusion engines burning hard as the warship accelerated toward the Wraith formation. 5.7 kilometers of human engineering and stubbornness moving to meet 19 biological warships that collectively outmassed it by orders of magnitude. On Infinity's bridge, weapons systems painted targeting solutions across every hive in range. Captain Lasky sat in the command chair with the calm of someone who'd faced impossible odds before and survived through superior firepower and uncompromising determination. Weapons free, Lasky ordered. Forward MAC batteries, commence firing. Show them what UNSC engineering looks like when it's angry. The magnetic accelerator cannons fired in sequence, a stuttering rhythm of electromagnetic thunder that sent 3,000-ton slugs downrange at 4% of light speed. Physics became weaponized, kinetic energy release measured in gigatons. The first salvo hit 3 hives simultaneously. Organic armor that had weathered ancient weapons for millennia simply ceased to exist under impacts that released more energy than nuclear warheads. The hive ships shuddered, biological systems screaming as structural damage cascaded through living corridors and regenerating bulkheads. But 19 hives meant distributed damage absorption. The wounded vessels fell back while undamaged ships moved forward, returning fire with particle beams that reached across the void to claw at Infinity's shields. Shields holding at 87%, the tactical officer reported. Enemy weapons are significantly lower yield than Covenant plasma. We can tank this all day. Don't get cocky, Palmer warned. They adapt. Give them time and they'll figure out how to hurt us. The Wraith were already adapting. Hive ships began staggered firing patterns, concentrating beams on specific shield segments to create localized overloads. Dart squadrons launched by the hundreds, organic fighters swarming toward infinity like insects seeking vulnerable points. Archer missile pods, commence ripple fire, Lasky ordered. Saturate those dart formations. Point defense systems engage. Infinity's hull erupted in coordinated violence. Archer missiles streaked away in hundreds, each one tracking darts through impossible maneuvers. Point defense guns painted the void with tracer fire, 50mm autocannons cycling at rates that turned space into a wall of steel. Darts died by the dozens, organic systems shredded by explosions and kinetic impacts. But hundreds more kept coming, some breaking through the defensive fire to strafe Infinity's hull with particle weapons that scored armor plate and tested shield integrity. On Atlantis, Sheppard watched the engagement through long-range sensors, seeing Infinity trade blows with an entire Wraith fleet while maintaining position between the hives and the city. They're drawing aggro. Every hive focusing on Infinity is one not shooting at us. Then we don't waste the opportunity, Chief stated. Colonel, those hives are concentrated on a single target. Classic tactical mistake. Fixation on primary threat while ignoring secondary capabilities. If we launch Puddle Jumpers with drone weapons, we hit them from an angle they're not defending, Sheppard finished, already moving toward the jumper bay. Ronan, Taylor, gear up. McKay, you're with us. Chief, your people coming. Negative, Chief replied. Spartans stay on Atlantis perimeter defense. If any darts break through to the city, we'll handle them. You focus on the hives. 6 Puddle Jumpers launched from Atlantis, cloaking systems engaging as they accelerated toward the furball that had engulfed Infinity's position. Ancient technology rendered them invisible to Wraith sensors, allowing them to approach within drone range undetected. Sheppard felt the neural interface connect, the ancient systems responding to his gene expression and tactical intent. The Jumpers' drone weapons armed, each one a precisely guided missile capable of independently tracking targets through maneuvers that would shred conventional ordnance. All Jumpers, weapons free. Target hive ships showing structural damage from MAC strikes. Hit them while they're regenerating, maximum damage before they can coordinate response. The Puddle Jumpers unleashed ancient fury. Drones spiraled away in formations that seemed almost alive, silver missiles that thought and adapted and killed with 10-million-year-old precision. They found wounded hives trying to regenerate, punched through compromised armor, and exploded inside biological systems that suddenly had to fight wars on 2 fronts. A hive ship's organic hull ruptured, atmosphere venting through catastrophic breaches as internal explosions rippled through regenerating tissue. Another hive's hyperspace organs shredded under sustained drone impacts, trapping it in normal space without escape routes. They're breaking formation, Palmer reported from Infinity's tactical station. 6 hives moving to intercept the Jumpers, but they can't get targeting locks through the cloaking fields. The Wraith Queens conferred through telepathic networks, ancient minds struggling with tactical problems they'd never faced. Invisible attackers wielding ancient weapons. A human warship that absorbed their firepower and returned devastation. Prey that coordinated across multiple platforms with precision that suggested advanced strategic doctrine. This wasn't how Cullings worked. This was actual warfare against competent opposition. A hive commander made a decision born of desperation and millennia of successful intimidation tactics. If they couldn't kill the ships, they'd attack the infrastructure those ships protected. 3 hives broke from the main formation, jumping to hyperspace for microjumps that would bring them directly to Atlantis's position, bypassing Infinity's defensive screen entirely. Multiple hyperspace signatures. McKay shouted from his sensor station. 3 hives jumping to point-blank range, they're appearing right on top of Atlantis. The hives materialized 200 kilometers above the city, particle beams already firing before their hyperspace windows fully collapsed. Energy weapons hammered Atlantis' shields with focused intensity, the ancient defensive systems flaring brilliant blue as they absorbed gigajoules of directed energy. Shields at 73% and dropping, a technician reported. They're targeting the same shield segment, trying to create a localized failure. Master Chief was already moving, coordinating through the neural interface that connected all Spartan teams across the city. All teams, prepare for potential shield breach. If they land ground forces, we hold every corridor, every room. Nobody gets to the gate room or control center. On the city's highest tower, a Spartan fire team led by Sarah Palmer set up M41 rocket launchers, weapons designed for anti-vehicle combat that would work just fine against organic warships. She sighted on the closest Hive's dart launch bays, waiting for the optimal moment. Target lock acquired, Palmer reported. Firing. 8 rockets streaked upward, smoke trails painting lines across Atlantis' sky. They found the Hive's launch bay, the one vulnerable point where armor was thinnest to allow dart deployment, and exploded deep inside organic structures that suddenly discovered conventional explosives were very effective against biological systems. The Hive ship listed, secondary explosions rippling through its dart storage organs. Dozens of darts detonated in their bays, organic fuel igniting in cascading failures that consumed entire sections of the ship's interior. Splash 1 Hive. Palmer's voice carried satisfaction. Remaining 2 are adjusting fire, they're trying to knock out our launcher positions. Particle beams carved through Atlantis' towers, ancient metal vaporizing under sustained energy weapons. But the ancients had built for durability, the city's structure held, damage localized and non-critical. Infinity was already burning hard back toward Atlantis, MAC guns tracking the Hives at point-blank range. Captain Lasky's expression was ice-cold calculation. They wanted close engagement, Lasky said. Give them what they wanted. MAC guns, target their propulsion organs. Cripple them so they can't jump away. The cannons fired at ranges measured in kilometers rather than millions. At that distance, even organic regeneration couldn't compensate for the catastrophic structural damage. The Hive's biological engines, organs that generated the exotic particles required for hyperspace jumps, simply ceased to exist under relativistic kinetic impacts. The Hives were trapped, unable to flee, unable to regenerate fast enough to survive sustained bombardment. They were dying, and they knew it. One queen made a final desperate decision. If they were dying anyway, they'd take the prey with them. The Hive ship began a suicide dive directly toward Atlantis, using every remaining engine for one last attack run. Hive ship on collision course, the sensor officer reported. Impact in 90 seconds. If it hits the shield at that velocity, the energy release will overload the shield generators and expose the city, McKay finished, calculations running in real time. We can't absorb that impact. Sheppard's jumper was already accelerating, drones launching in sustained salvos that carved into the diving Hive's forward section. Ancient weapons chewed through organic matter, but the Hive kept coming, momentum and desperation overriding self-preservation. Master Chief watched the tactical display, enhanced Spartan reflexes calculating vectors and impact geometry. The Hive would hit in 70 seconds. Drones couldn't stop it in time. Infinity couldn't reposition for a clean shot without risking the city. Which left one option. All Spartans, Chief transmitted. Evacuate tower sections 1 through 7. 60 seconds. Palmer understood immediately. Chief, you can't be serious. 45 seconds. Move. Chief sprinted through Atlantis' corridors, Mjolnir armor's enhanced speed carrying him to a transport chamber that flickered him to the tower directly in the Hive's impact path. He emerged onto an observation platform 400 meters above the ocean, staring up at 3 kilometers of organic warship diving toward the city like the wrath of ancient gods. His armor's HUD painted the impact countdown. 30 seconds. Chief activated Infinity's tactical channel. Commander Christoph, I need a MAC gun shot, precision targeting. Coordinates uploading now. You have one chance to make this work. Kristoff's voice was tight with understanding of what Chief was requesting. Chief, those coordinates put you at ground zero. The shockwave. We'll hit Atlantis whether I'm here or not. Take the shot. On Infinity, Lasky made the decision without hesitation. Warriors understood sacrifice. Spartans understood it better than most. Fire. The MAC gun spoke one final time. The tungsten carbide slug crossed the distance in microseconds, trajectory calculated with mathematical perfection. It hit the diving hive ship precisely amidships, 3,000 tons of kinetic energy shattering organic structure that was already stressed beyond survival limits. The hive ship broke apart. Not exploded, just structurally failed, momentum carrying the fragments forward but impact energy dispersed across dozens of pieces instead of one concentrated mass. The fragments hit Atlantis's shield. The barrier flared, overloaded, failed in that specific section. But distributed impacts didn't carry enough individual energy to penetrate the city's secondary defenses. Organic debris rained across Atlantis, chunks of biological matter splattering against ancient towers. One massive fragment tumbled directly toward Chief's position, 30 tons of organic hull that would pulverize even Mjolnir armor. Chief jumped. His enhanced reflexes, armor's thrusters, and simple desperate momentum carried him clear as the fragment crashed through the platform. He fell, Mjolnir calculating impact velocity with the ocean 400 meters below, survivable, barely. A puddle jumper appeared beneath him, Sheppard's voice crackling through the comm, somebody call for a ride? Chief hit the jumper's hull, mag boots engaging to lock onto the ancient metal. The jumper's rear hatch opened, Ronan hauling the Spartan inside with strength that suggested the Satadin could probably arm wrestle a Spartan and make it interesting. Nice catch, Sheppard, Chief said, recovering his balance. We have our moments. You okay? Functional. Chief checked his armor systems, shield generators down to 17%, minor structural damage, neural interface slightly scrambled but operational. Nothing that would prevent continued combat operations. The battlefield had gone quiet. The diving hive was debris. The two remaining close-range hives had been pounded into biological wreckage by combined fire from Infinity and the Jumper Squadron. The 16 remaining hives from the original formation were withdrawing to hyperspace range, Queens apparently deciding the cost was too high. They're retreating, Taylor said with quiet wonder. 19 hives, and we drove them off. We didn't drive them off, Sheppard corrected. We scared them. There's a difference. On Infinity's bridge, casualty reports came in, minor injuries, some structural damage, shield generators stressed but functional. 0 fatalities. They just fought an entire Wraith armada and survived with 0 fatalities. Captain, Palmer reported, long-range sensors show the remaining hives jumping to hyperspace. Multiple vectors, no coordinated destination. They're scattering. Lasky allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. Status on Atlantis. Shield sections regenerating, McKay transmitted. We took damage but nothing structural. The city's still operational, and, I can't believe I'm saying this, we just survived a 19-hive siege with minimal casualties. That's unprecedented in Pegasus history. Master Chief stood in the puddle jumper, looking at the debris field where Wraith hives had been, at Infinity maintaining overwatch position, at Atlantis gleaming beneath them, intact, defended, victorious. Colonel Sheppard, Chief said quietly, I think we just changed the strategic balance in this galaxy. Sheppard smiled. Chief, I think we just started a war the Wraith aren't sure they can win. And that's exactly what we needed. The aftermath of the battle transformed Atlantis into something resembling a victory celebration crossed with a trauma ward. Marines who'd never seen the Wraith retreat slapped each other's backs while medical teams treated minor injuries and shield technicians worked frantically to stabilize power systems that had been pushed to their absolute limits. In the city's commissary, someone had broken out contraband alcohol, and even Dr. Ware had stopped trying to maintain proper decorum. Master Chief stood on Atlantis's eastern pier, Mjolnir armor reflecting the Pegasus sunset while his neural interface processed combat data from the engagement. Beside him, Sheppard leaned against the railing with a beer that technically violated about 17 regulations, watching debris from destroyed Wraith hives burn up in atmospheric re-entry like meteor showers. "You jumped off a 400-meter tower," Sheppard said conversationally. "I've done stupid things in my career, but that's impressive even by my standards." "Calculated risk," Chief replied. "Armor thrusters provide limited maneuvering capability, enhanced skeletal structure can absorb impacts that would kill unaugmented humans, and you were in position to intercept. The mathematics supported survival." "The mathematics," Sheppard repeated with a laugh. "Chief, you're basically a walking tank that thinks like a tactical computer, aren't you? That was the design goal of the Spartan 2 program. Well, it worked. Though next time, maybe radio ahead before playing lawn dart with ancient architecture." The celebration in the commissary had evolved into something more genuine, Spartans in unpowered underarmor sharing stories with Atlantis Marines who'd realized that supersoldiers were still soldiers, still human under the technology and augmentation. Spartan Frederick, 104 was demonstrating enhanced strength by arm wrestling 3 Marines simultaneously and losing deliberately to maintain morale. Palmer sat with Ronan, comparing scars and discussing optimal methods for killing Wraith at close range. Dr. McKay had commandeered an entire wall of monitors to display post-battle analytics, Christoph beside him running calculations about shield harmonics and energy distribution that neither man fully understood but both found intellectually stimulating. The ancient shield generators held under concentrated bombardment for 17 minutes, McKay explained to anyone who'd listen. That's approximately 1.3 times longer than our theoretical maximum. Somehow, during the engagement, the shield matrices adapted their energy distribution patterns to compensate for focused attacks. The city is learning. Actually learning from combat engagement and modifying its defensive algorithms. Ancient technology was designed to be adaptive, Christoph observed. Forerunner constructs in our reality show similar characteristics, self-modification, tactical learning, strategic evolution. It's like both precursor species understood that static defenses eventually fail. Taylor moved through the celebration with the grace of someone ensuring her people, the Athosians who'd taken refuge in Atlantis, understood what the victory meant. She found Master Chief on the pier, studying the stars with the intensity of someone cataloging strategic information. "Master Chief," Taylor said softly, "you fight with the discipline of one who has seen too much death. Like Ronan. Like all of us who have survived the Wraith for too long. 30 years of war leaves marks," Chief acknowledged. "You learn to compartmentalize. Focus on the mission, trust your training, protect the people who can't protect themselves. And yet you jumped to save this city. You could have evacuated with your people, let the impact occur, survived to fight another day. Instead, you remained to ensure Atlantis survived." Taylor studied him with the insight of someone who'd spent her life reading people. "That is not tactical calculation. That is something deeper." Chief was quiet for a moment, visor reflecting stars he'd never seen from Earth. Spartans were created to protect humanity. All of humanity. The fact that these humans are from a parallel reality doesn't change the mission parameters. "You are a good man, John," Taylor said, using his given name deliberately. "I hope you know that, beneath the armor and augmentation." Before Chief could respond, proximity alarms shrieked across the city. Not attack warnings, something stranger. The gate room's sensors detected unusual energy signatures, ancient systems activating without authorization, and a brilliant light began building in the gate room's central chamber. "What now?" Sheppard demanded, sprinting toward the control room with Chief right behind him. The gate room had transformed into something that made even ancient technology look understated. The Stargate itself was inactive, but a column of golden light erupted from the floor, rising toward the ceiling in patterns that seemed simultaneously random and precisely orchestrated. Within the light, a figure began materializing, humanoid, translucent, radiating energy that made every ancient sensor in the city go haywire. Ascended being, McKay breathed, watching readings that defied every physical law he understood. An actual ascended ancient is manifesting in physical adjacent form in our gate room. This is unprecedented. They never interfere directly. The figure solidified enough to reveal features, female, ageless, carrying herself with the serenity of someone who existed beyond physical concerns. When she spoke, her voice resonated not through air but directly in the minds of everyone present. "I am Ganos Lal," the ascended ancient said. "Though some knew me as Morgan Le Fay in your histories. I come bearing warning and acknowledgement in equal measure." Dr. Were stepped forward with diplomatic courage that impressed even Chief Morgan Le Fay. The legends were real. "Legends are often truth filtered through limited understanding," Morgan replied, her form flickering between corporeal and pure energy. "The ancients watch the physical realm with interest, though we are forbidden from direct intervention. Your arrival," she gestured toward Master Chief and the direction of infinity in orbit, "represents something we did not anticipate. Humans from a parallel reality, technological evolution following similar but distinct paths, and most concerning, the attention you have attracted." "The Wraith know we're here," Lasky said through the comm channel, his voice carrying tension. "That's not news." "Not the Wraith," Morgan corrected. "Your battle, your display of advanced weaponry and coordinated tactics, has resonated across subspace frequencies that reach beyond Pegasus. The Asgard have detected your presence. More concerning, the Ori have sensed technological signatures that intrigue them. And most dangerous of all, there are older things in this galaxy that slumber in darkness, things the ancients hoped would never wake." Master Chief's tactical assessment immediately flagged the implications. "You're saying our presence has drawn attention from multiple hostile factions." "I am saying that humanity, both versions present in this room, has announced itself as a power capable of challenging the established order. The Wraith are ancient, but they are merely predators. The Ori are crusaders who gain power through worship. The Asgard are dying but still formidable. And the darkness I mention," Morgan's form flickered with what might have been fear, "has no name you would recognize, only hunger that predates the ancients themselves." "That's ominous and unhelpful in equal measure," Sheppard said. "Can you give us anything actionable? Coordinates? Threat assessment? Strategic intelligence we can actually use?" Morgan's expression suggested amusement. "You fight well together, these two humanities. The ancients built their civilization on exploration and accumulated knowledge. Your people," she looked at Lasky and Chief, "built yours on stubborn refusal to accept extinction. Both philosophies have merit. Both will be necessary for what approaches. The Ori Crusade," McKay said suddenly, understanding dawning. "The reports from the Milky Way, ascended beings from the origin galaxy forcing conversion through military conquest. They're coming here too, aren't they? The Ori have learned of Pegasus, of Atlantis, and now of Infinity, a warship from a reality they cannot predict. They will investigate. They will attempt conversion. And when humanity refuses," Morgan's form began fading, the energy sustaining her physical adjacent manifestation dissipating. "The priors are already traveling through the supergate. You have weeks, perhaps months. Use them wisely. Wait. We're called out. You're just going to warn us and leave? No help. No ancient technology we can use. No strategic guidance." Morgan's voice came from everywhere and nowhere. "We ancients learned through millennia that direct intervention creates dependence. You must forge your own path, develop your own solutions. But know this, the ancients watch with hope. Two humanities, united by necessity, defending not just survival but the principle that sentient life determines its own destiny. That is worth preserving. That is worth fighting for." The golden light vanished. The gate room returned to normal ancient architecture and standard lighting. Everyone stood in stunned silence, processing the implications of an ascended ancient manifesting just to deliver warnings and vague encouragement. "Okay," Ronan said finally. So Wraith are the least of our problems now. The galaxy just got significantly more complicated. Chief was already running tactical projections through his neural interface. The Ori. From everything Morgan implied, they're ascended beings using religious conversion as warfare. Priors with enhanced capabilities, fleets we haven't encountered, an ideological certainty that makes negotiation impossible. We've faced zealots before, Palmer said grimly. The Covenant was driven by religious certainty. We learned to fight faith with firepower. The Covenant was mortal, Lasky corrected. The Ori are ascended beings with actual divine power supporting their crusade. That's a different threat category entirely. McKay was frantically pulling up every scrap of intelligence from the Milky Way about Ori capabilities. Their ships use advanced ancient technology, their shields can withstand sustained drone bombardment, their main weapons are planet-killing energy beams, and their priors, enhanced humans with ascended powers, can perform what looks like magic. Telekinesis, energy manipulation, resurrections, plague creation. They're walking weapons with religious mandate for genocide of non-believers. So basically the Covenant meets the prophets meets actual divine intervention, Sheppard summarized. Fantastic. Just when we thought 19 Wraith hives was our big problem. Master Chief looked at the gate, at Atlantis' systems, at the strategic position they'd built over the past weeks. We've faced extinction-level opposition before. The parameters change, but the mission doesn't: defend humanity, adapt to threats, survive through superior tactics and refusal to surrender. The Chief's right, Lasky agreed through the comm. We fortify, we prepare, we gather intelligence on Ori capabilities, and we make damn sure when they arrive in Pegasus, they find prey that bites back hard enough to make them reconsider conquest. Kayla stepped forward, her expression carrying the steel of someone who'd survived impossible odds through sheer determination. For 10,000 years, the Wraith have told us that resistance is futile, that humanity's role is to be food. We proved them wrong. If these Ori believe we will convert or die, they will learn the same lesson. The celebration in the commissary had quieted, word spreading about the ascended ancients' warning. But instead of fear, what spread through Atlantis was something more dangerous: determined resolve. The city had just survived a 19-hive siege. Marines and Spartans had fought together and won. Ancient technology and UNSC firepower had forged something new. Whatever was coming, they'd face it together. In the medical bay, Dr. Carson Beckett was treating minor injuries from the battle when he noticed something unusual. One of the Spartan team members, Frederick, 104, had sustained what should have been significant damage but was already healing at accelerated rates. Remarkable, Beckett muttered, scanning the Spartan's enhanced biology. Your augmentations include some form of advanced healing factor. The nanomachines in your bloodstream are actively repairing tissue damage at cellular level. Fred's helmet was off, revealing features that carried the hard edges of someone who'd been fighting since childhood. Standard Spartan 2 augmentation package. Catalytic thyroid implant, superconducting fabrication of neural dendrites, occipital capillary reversal. We heal fast, think faster, and hit hard. You were children when they did this to you, Beckett said softly, Irish accent thickening with emotion. That's unconscionable. Making weapons out of children. It saved humanity, Fred replied without rancor. The Covenant would have killed everyone. The Spartan program cost us normal lives but bought survival for billions. I'd make the same choice again. Beckett didn't have a response to that level of acceptance. He'd spent his career trying to heal people, not create supersoldiers. But looking at Fred, at the scars, the augmented body, the absolute certainty of purpose, he understood something fundamental. Sometimes survival required terrible choices, and the people who made those choices carried the weight forever. On Infinity's observation deck, Captain Lasky stood watching Atlantis gleaming below, thinking about Morgan Le Fay's warning. The Ori were coming. More threats would follow. Infinity was stranded in a galaxy 3 million light-years from home, fighting wars that technically weren't theirs but had somehow become their responsibility. And yet, looking at Atlantis, at the city that had pulled them across realities, at the people who'd welcomed them as allies despite representing complicated unknown variables, Lasky felt something he hadn't expected. Purpose. The mission in Pegasus wasn't a mistake or a catastrophe to fix through returning home. It was exactly where Infinity needed to be. Where Spartans and Marines and crew who'd spent 30 years fighting extinction wars could actually make a difference in a galaxy that needed defenders who refused to quit. Commander Christoph, Lasky transmitted to engineering, "How are those slipspace drive repairs coming?" "On schedule, Captain. 6 months to full operational capacity, assuming no complications." "Slow them down." Silence on the channel. Then Christoph's careful voice, "Sir, did you just order me to delay our ability to return home?" "I ordered you to prioritize defensive systems integration and tactical capabilities enhancement. Slipspace drive repairs are secondary priority until we've secured Pegasus against current threat vectors. We're not abandoning this galaxy while it needs us." "Understood, Captain." Christoph out. Master Chief appeared beside Lasky, armor painted orange in the sunset light. "Overheard the order, sir. The crew will support it, but some will wonder why we're staying when we have the option to leave. Because Spartans don't abandon missions, Chief. And this mission, defending people who need defenders, fighting enemies that need fighting, that's what we do. Whether it's in our reality or someone else's." Chief nodded slowly. "Agreed, sir. Permission to continue training operations with Atlantis teams. If the Ori are coming, we need to be ready." "Granted." "And Chief? That jump today, off the tower. Don't do it again." "Can't promise that, sir. Sometimes the mission requires unconventional approaches." Lasky smiled despite himself. "Dismissed, Master Chief. Try not to give Commander Palmer any more heart attacks." As Chief left, Lasky looked back at Atlantis, at the city that had survived 10,000 years beneath oceans and 5 years of Wraith sieges and now hosted an alliance between two versions of humanity that should never have met. The Ori were coming. Ancient darkness stirred. The Asgard watched with interest. And somewhere in the depths of Pegasus, Wraith queens plotted revenge against the prey that had humiliated them. But Infinity was here. Atlantis stood strong. And together, two humanities had decided that this galaxy was worth defending. Whatever came next, they'd face it the way both civilizations had always faced impossible odds, with stubborn determination, superior firepower, and the absolute refusal to accept defeat. The war for Pegasus had only just begun. The Ori arrived 3 weeks later with the devastating certainty of holy warriors convinced of their divine mandate. The Supergate activation sent shockwaves through Atlantis's long-range sensors. A massive artificial wormhole stabilizing at the edge of Pegasus Galaxy, a doorway between galaxies that shouldn't exist but did because ascended beings had decided mortal worship was worth the engineering effort. "Hyperspace window forming," Major Lorne reported, his voice tight with tension. "Size is, Jesus, that's not a ship, that's a mobile fortress." The Ori warship emerged from the Supergate like judgment made manifest. 4 kilometers of sleek white hull that radiated power even through sensor readings, geometric perfection that made ancient architecture look primitive, and energy signatures that made every physicist aboard Infinity question their understanding of physics. The ship didn't just move through space, it seemed to impose its will on reality, demanding the universe accommodate its presence. Master Chief stood at Atlantis's tactical display, Mjolnir armor's neural interface processing threat assessments that painted increasingly dire pictures. Single ship. No escorts. That's either extreme confidence or they don't need support. "It's both," McKay said, pulling up intelligence from Milky Way sources about Ori warship capabilities. "Their shields can absorb sustained ancient drone bombardment. Their main weapon fires planet-killing energy beams. And they're powered by people's faith, literally, the more believers worship the Ori, the more powerful their ships become. It's offensive to physics on multiple levels. Sheppard checked his P-90 even though small arms would be utterly useless against a 4-kilometer warship. So we're facing a technologically superior vessel powered by weaponized religion. Anyone have good news? They've only sent one ship, Ronan observed. Means they're either scouting or they think one is enough. Both, Taylor said, studying the sensor data with the insight of someone who understood predator psychology. The Ori believe absolutely in their divine superiority. One ship is a test. Can these humans be converted peacefully? If not, can they be destroyed easily? Either outcome serves the Ori's purpose. Captain Lasky's voice crackled through the command channel from Infinity. Atlantis, we're detecting broadcast on multiple frequencies. Religious text, conversion ultimatum, standard Crusader doctrine. They're giving us the option to surrender and worship before they start shooting. How generous, Sheppard muttered. Dr. Weir, you want to handle the diplomatic, thanks but no thanks, or should we just skip to the part where violence solves our theological differences? Dr. Weir moved to the communications console with the composure of someone who negotiated with dozens of alien species and understood that sometimes diplomacy was just buying time for tactics. Open a channel. Let's hear what they have to say before we start a war with ascended beings. The holographic display flickered, resolving into the image that had terrorized the Milky Way for 2 years, a prior of the Ori. Tall, robed, carrying a staff that crackled with power, and radiating absolute certainty that would have been admirable if it weren't attached to genocidal religious conquest. His voice resonated with harmonics that suggested ascended enhancement. I am Prior Damaris, servant of the Ori, speakers of holy truth. Your galaxy has lived in darkness, ignorant of the path to enlightenment. The Ori offer salvation, kneel before Origin, accept the teachings of the Book of Origin, and know peace eternal. Resist, and know the fury of gods who will not tolerate defiance. Well, that was inspirational, Sheppard said. Really felt the warmth and compassion. Dr. Weir, please tell me we're not actually considering. We're not, Weir said firmly, then addressed the Prior directly. Prior Damaris, I'm Dr. Elizabeth Weir, leader of the Atlantis expedition. We appreciate the offer, but humanity has a long history of declining religious conversion at gunpoint. We choose our own beliefs, forge our own path, and we're not interested in worshipping beings who threaten violence for non-compliance. The Prior's expression didn't change, absolute certainty rarely accommodated resistance. You speak from ignorance. The Ori are not distant gods demanding blind faith. They are ascended beings who share power with those who believe. Through Origin, humanity transcends mortal limitations. Through worship, the faithful are rewarded. Refuse, and you condemn yourselves and all under your protection. See, that's the problem, Captain Lasky interjected, his voice carrying the steel of someone who'd faced religious zealots before. We've encountered species who claim divine mandate for genocide. The Covenant glassed 33 of our colonies while preaching about holy journeys. We learned to be skeptical of anyone who claims you must convert or die. For the first time, the Prior's certainty flickered. You speak of war against false prophets. The Ori are not false, they are ascended, powerful beyond mortal comprehension. Your skepticism is understandable but ultimately futile. The Ori will not be denied. Master Chief stepped into the holographic transmission range, Mjolnir armor's imposing presence translating clearly through the visual link. Prior Damaris, I've fought religious extremists for 30 years. Covenant prophets claimed divine sanction for human extinction. They were wrong. If the Ori require worship through threat of violence, they're not gods, they're tyrants with advanced technology. Humanity doesn't kneel to tyrants. The Prior's staff crackled with energy, power building in response to what he clearly perceived as unforgivable blasphemy. You dare question the Ori? You, who wear armor like a shell against truth. The faithful need no protection beyond the Ori's blessing. Your resistance demonstrates the corruption that must be purged. Here we go, Palmer muttered from her tactical station. Shields are deflecting MAC rounds like they're nothing, Commander Christoph reported, disbelief coloring his usually controlled voice. "Captain, those shields are operating on principles that shouldn't be possible. They're not just absorbing energy, they're redistributing it across dimensional boundaries. We're not fighting physics, we're fighting miracles backed by weaponized math." "Then we change tactics," Chief said, already coordinating Spartan deployments through his neural interface. "Colonel Sheppard, can ancient drones penetrate those shields?" "Unknown," Sheppard admitted. "We've never tested drones against Ori warships. But drones are designed to adapt, think, and exploit weaknesses. If anything can find gaps in those shields, then launch everything," Chief ordered. "Saturate their defenses, force them to allocate shield strength across multiple vectors. Create openings for follow-up strikes." The gate room's drone bays erupted, hundreds of silver missiles spiraling away from Atlantis in coordinated swarms that demonstrated 10-million-year-old tactical programming. They approached the Ori warship from every angle, adaptive targeting subroutines searching for shield vulnerabilities with relentless mechanical determination. The Ori warship's defensive systems engaged, point defense beams that tracked and destroyed individual drones with precision that suggested ascended guidance. Dozens of drones vanished in bursts of light, but hundreds more kept coming, probing, testing, learning. 3 drones found a gap where shield harmonics created a microsecond window. They punched through, impacting the white hull with explosions that actually damaged the Ori vessel. Small damage, superficial, but damage nonetheless. "They're not invulnerable," Palmer said with fierce satisfaction. "The shields have weaknesses. We just need to find them consistently." The Prior's face reappeared on the holographic display, but his certainty had fractured into fury. "You dare wound a ship blessed by the Ori? Your defiance compounds your heresy. The Ori are infinite, eternal, and you are nothing but. We're humans who've survived impossible odds through stubbornness and firepower," Ronan interrupted, particle magnum in hand even though it was useless at this range. "Your gods want worship. They can get in line behind every other species that's tried to kill us and failed." The Ori warship's bombardment intensified, multiple energy beams hammering Atlantis's shield while secondary weapons tracked and destroyed incoming drones. The city shuddered, ZPM power dropping rapidly as ancient technology fought to maintain defensive integrity against weapons it was never designed to counter. "Shield at 43%, McKay reported. "We need to do something dramatic in the next 3 minutes or we're going to lose shield integrity entirely." Master Chief was already moving, sprinting toward the Puddle Jumper Bay with a plan forming that was tactically insane but operationally feasible. "Spartan fire teams, combat deployment. We're boarding that warship. You want to board a 4-kilometer vessel crewed by religious fanatics with ascended powers backing them?" Sheppard demanded, even as he fell into step beside Chief. "That's suicide." "It's asymmetric warfare," Chief corrected. "They're focused on ship-to-ship combat. They're not expecting boarding actions from opponents they view as technologically inferior. We get inside, disable critical systems from within, create tactical chaos. It's what Spartans do." Palmer was already coordinating with fire teams, her voice carrying across Spartan channels. "All teams, combat loadout. Expect hostile environment, superhuman opposition, and zero room for error. We're teaching gods what Spartans learned fighting Covenant prophets: divinity doesn't stop bullets if you aim well enough." 6 Puddle Jumpers launched from Atlantis, cloaking systems engaging as they accelerated toward the Ori warship. Each jumper carried a Spartan fire team, Atlantis personnel who knew ancient technology, and enough explosive ordnance to make the ship's crew reconsider their divine mandate. The jumpers approached through the chaos of ongoing combat, invisible to Ori sensors that were designed to track energy signatures and mass but not ancient cloaking fields that bent spacetime around objects. They found docking ports, breaching points, sections where the white hull was designed for internal access. Master Chief's jumper latched onto an access port, cutting through with plasma torches that made short work of material designed for aesthetics rather than security. The Spartan teams poured into the Ori warship's corridors, white hallways that gleamed with religious iconography and hummed with power that felt wrong to human senses. Hostile contacts, Chief reported, motion tracker painting figures approaching from multiple directions. Engaging. The Ori's crew weren't warriors in the traditional sense, they were converted believers, humans from the Origin galaxy who'd accepted Origin and received enhanced capabilities as reward. They fought with energy weapons that crackled with ascended power, with hand-to-hand combat skills enhanced beyond natural limits, with absolute certainty that their cause was righteous. They died anyway. UNSC training met religious fervor, and training won through superior tactics and refusal to hesitate. Spartan marksmanship put rounds through center mass with precision that made enhanced reflexes irrelevant. Mjolnir shields absorbed energy weapon strikes while servo motors delivered counterattacks that shattered bones even through enhanced durability. Master Chief moved through the corridors like mechanized death, MA-5D rifle tracking targets with mathematical precision while his enhanced reflexes processed combat geometry in microseconds. Beside him, Ronan fought with savage joy, particle magnum blowing holes through Ori crew members who'd never faced opponents this determined. Engineering section located, McKay transmitted from his position 3 decks down, scanning ancient-derived systems with his tablet. Their power distribution network is centralized, typical ancient architecture adapted for Ori purposes. If we overload the primary conduits, we can cascade failures through their entire power grid. Do it, Chief ordered. All teams, converge on engineering. We disable this ship's offensive capabilities, then we evacuate before they adapt. The Ori warship's crew was adapting already. Security teams with enhanced capabilities and better coordination were converging on the Spartan positions, led by lower-level priors whose staffs crackled with power that suggested ascended enhancement. One prior raised his staff, energy gathering for an attack that would incinerate everyone in the corridor. Spartan 4 Sarah Palmer shot him 3 times before he could complete the gesture. Ascended powers require concentration. Bullets require trigger pulls. Advantage, bullets. They reached engineering, a vast chamber where crystalline matrices channeled power drawn directly from subspace through mechanisms that made even McKay struggle with the physics. The power flowing through those conduits could have supplied Earth's entire electrical grid for decades, all dedicated to maintaining shields and weapons for a vessel whose purpose was conversion through overwhelming force. Setting charges, Chief reported, placing explosive packs at critical junction points identified by McKay's scans. 30 seconds to detonation. All teams, exfiltration routes Alpha through Delta. Move. The Spartans withdrew through corridors now filled with alarms and desperate crew members, fighting retreating actions that demonstrated why boarding Spartan-occupied vessels was tactically inadvisable. The Puddle Jumpers still cloaked at the access points, waiting with hatches open and engines hot. The charges detonated simultaneously, shaped explosions that severed power conduits at precisely calculated points. The cascade effect was immediate, shield generators lost primary power, weapon systems went offline, and the Ori warship's elegant white corridors suddenly filled with darkness and emergency lighting. On Atlantis, sensors detected the shield collapse. Sheppard's voice carried fierce triumph, their shields are down. Infinity, now's your chance. Captain Lasky didn't hesitate. All batteries, concentrated fire. Target their primary weapon systems. Disable that ship before they can restore shields. Infinity's weapon systems unleashed coordinated devastation. MAC rounds punched through hull sections now unprotected by shields, Archer missiles found weapon ports and detonated deep inside the ship's systems, and point defense guns stitched the white hull with patterns of destruction that would have made the vessel's designers weep. The Ori warship listed, catastrophic damage overwhelming its regeneration systems. But it wasn't destroyed, couldn't be destroyed completely without risking ascended intervention. The prior's voice crackled across all frequencies, fury and disbelief replacing religious certainty. This is not possible. The Ori are supreme. You cannot, this defies, the transmission cut off as the warship's communication systems failed. "They're retreating," Palmer reported from her Puddle Jumper, watching the crippled Ori vessel attempting to generate enough power for hyperspace jump. "Shields are regenerating slowly, but they're prioritizing escape over continued engagement." "Let them go," Lasky ordered. "Let them report back to their crusade that Pegasus isn't an easy conquest. Let every Ori ship know that humanity here doesn't kneel." The Ori warship flickered and vanished into hyperspace, limping back to the supergate carrying the news that would ripple through the Ori crusade. Humans and Pegasus had wounded a ship blessed by ascended beings. The faithful had been defeated. The unbelievers had prevailed through tactics and determination and absolute refusal to accept divine mandate. Master Chief stood in the Puddle Jumper as it returned to Atlantis, watching the space where the Ori warship had been. His armor's combat recorder had documented everything: prior capabilities, Ori crew enhancement levels, ship system vulnerabilities, tactical responses to boarding actions. "First engagement with the Ori," Chief said quietly. "We won. But they'll adapt. They'll come back stronger, smarter, with more ships and better tactics. This was just their opening move. Then we'll be ready," Sheppard replied. "We've got Spartans, ancient technology, UNSC firepower, and sheer bloody-minded determination. The Ori want to convert this galaxy. They're going to learn that Pegasus already has religions. We worship survival, tactical competence, and telling would-be gods to go to hell." On Infinity's bridge, Lasky watched sensor readings showing the Ori warship fleeing toward the supergate. Around him, crew members who just fought ascended beings and one maintained their posts with professional discipline, but he could see the pride in their movements. "Commander Christoph," Lasky said, "update all combat logs. Today we proved that UNSC doctrine works against enemies claiming divine authority. Share the tactical data with Atlantis. Next time the Ori show up, and they will show up, we'll be ready." "Aye, sir." "Permission to add a note to the combat log?" "Granted. Gods bleed when you shoot them correctly. Seems appropriately irreverent for the occasion, sir." Lasky smiled. "Approved. Make it official UNSC doctrine regarding ascended being engagement protocols." 6 months after Infinity's arrival transformed Pegasus from a Wraith feeding ground into a contested warzone, the defensive network spanning 14 worlds hummed with quiet efficiency. Ancient shield emitters powered by Naquata generators protected settlements that had lived in terror for generations. Spartan fire teams rotated through forward operating bases, training local militias and responding to Wraith probes with devastating effectiveness. And in Atlantis's expanded operations center, holographic displays showed a galaxy that was finally, cautiously, learning to hope. Master Chief stood on the city's highest tower as twin suns set over the Lantean Ocean, Mjolnir armor painted gold and crimson in the dying light. His neural interface processed status reports from across Pegasus, Manaria reporting 0 culling attempts in 4 months, the Genii requesting tactical training for their military, Athosian settlements expanding beyond subsistence farming into actual civilization building. Small victories, but victories nonetheless. "Enjoying the view?" Sheppard approached with 2 beers, offering one before remembering Chief's helmet situation. "Right, armor. My bad." Chief's helmet retracted with a pneumatic hiss, revealing features that carried the weight of 30 years fighting impossible wars. He accepted the beer with the slight awkwardness of someone who didn't drink often but understood the gesture's significance. Watching the sun set on a world that's not under immediate threat of extinction. "It's different from what I'm used to." "Gets addictive," Sheppard agreed, leaning against the railing. 5 years ago, I was flying helicopters in Afghanistan, bored out of my mind. Now I'm defending an ancient city in another galaxy, working alongside supersoldiers from a parallel reality, and somehow this feels more normal than anything I did back on Earth. Below them, the city thrummed with coordinated activity. Dr. McKay and Commander Christoph had achieved what both called their masterpiece, a hybrid reactor system that integrated Naquata enhancement with UNSC fusion technology, producing power outputs that exceeded either system's individual capabilities. The result powered not just Atlantis but the entire defensive network, proof that two versions of humanity could create something neither could achieve alone. In the training bay, Spartan versus ran combat drills with Atlantis Marines, the super soldiers demonstrating techniques while the Marines adapted them to non-enhanced capabilities. Ronan Dex moved among them, offering brutal commentary and occasionally demonstrating why 7 years as a Wraith runner had made him nearly as dangerous as a Spartan in close quarters. Taylor coordinated with settlement leaders across the Gate network, her diplomatic skills backed by the reality that Atlantis could now respond to threats with force sufficient to make even Wraith queens reconsider culling operations. The Pegasus human population was growing for the first time in recorded history, births outnumbering culling deaths by margins that statistical analysis suggested were impossible. The Wraith are adapting, Chief observed, watching sensor data through his HUD. 3 hive alliances have formed in the past month. They're consolidating strength, sharing intelligence, coordinating strategies. They know we're changing the tactical equation, and they're responding. Let them, Sheppard said with the confidence of someone who'd faced worse odds. Every day they spend planning is another day settlements grow stronger, another day we integrate technology and train defenders. Time is on our side for once. The Wraith have been apex predators for 10,000 years, learning to face organized resistance is going to take them longer than it takes us to fortify. A communication channel opened, Captain Lasky's voice carrying from Infinity's orbit where the massive warship maintained overwatch position. Atlantis, Infinity. Long-range sensors are detecting unusual activity near the supergate. Multiple hyperspace signatures, coordination patterns suggesting fleet-level organization. Recommend Condition 2 alert status. Chief's helmet snapped back into place, combat protocols engaging automatically. The Ori. They're coming back. Or the Wraith finally gathered enough hives for a serious assault, Sheppard countered, already moving toward the control room. Either way, we're about to get interesting again. The operations center filled rapidly, personnel moving to stations with practiced efficiency born from 6 months of coordinated defense operations. The holographic display painted the approaching threat in unforgiving detail, 8 contacts emerging from hyperspace at the Pegasus boundary, energy signatures matching neither Wraith nor Ori patterns. Unknown vessel configuration, McKay reported, fingers dancing across his interface. Hull composition is organic like Wraith, but the energy distribution patterns are completely different. And there's something else, I'm detecting technology signatures that match ancient databases but shouldn't exist. These ships are using knowledge that predates even the ancients' time in Pegasus. Dr. Were stepped to the command position, her expression carrying the diplomatic concern of someone recognizing a scenario with no good outcomes. Could they be remnants of the ancients themselves? Sleeper ships that awakened? Negative, Christoph said from his engineering station, running comparative analyses. The power systems are wrong. Ancient technology has distinctive energy harmonics, these ships are using something older, something that ancient systems flag as dangerous. Whatever's approaching, the ancients feared it. The communication system crackled with a transmission that made every ancient sensor in the city scream warnings. The voice that emerged was multi-layered, harmonic suggesting multiple consciousnesses speaking in unison through translated patterns that human minds could barely process. Humans of Lantia's legacy. We are the returned. We who slept while lesser species played at civilization. We who remember when the ancients were young and foolish. You have awakened us with your warfare, your broadcast power signatures, your presumption that you control this galaxy. That presumption ends now. The transmission cut off, replaced by sensor data showing the 8 vessels accelerating toward Atlantis at velocities that made hyperspace look pedestrian. Whatever technology they used, it treated spacetime as a suggestion rather than a limitation. Battle stations, Lasky ordered, Infinity's weapons systems already coming online. Chief, get your teams ready. We don't know what we're facing, but we face it together. Master Chief coordinated across the Spartan network, enhanced consciousness processing tactical variables at speeds that made even ancient computers look slow. Unknown enemy, unknown capabilities, but known parameters, defend Atlantis, protect civilians, survive through superior tactics and refusal to surrender. All Spartan teams, combat readiness alpha. Unknown hostile contacts inbound. Expect superhuman opposition and technology beyond current threat assessment models. Rules of engagement, protect Atlantis at all costs. Across 14 worlds, defensive networks activated. Shield generators powered up, ancient weapons armed themselves, and populations that had learned to trust in their defenders moved to shelters with the orderly calm of people who'd survived worse by following protocols. But this wasn't Wraith. This wasn't Ori. This was something older, something that had slept through the rise and fall of the ancients themselves, awakened now by the energy signatures of two humanities refusing to die quietly. The 8 vessels entered weapons range, and every sensor painted impossible readings, energy outputs that exceeded anything in the database, shield harmonics that suggested dimensional manipulation beyond ancient achievement, weapons ports that hummed with contained power measured in scales that made planetary destruction look trivial. They're holding position at 10 million kilometers, Palmer reported. Not attacking. Just waiting. The transmission came again, that multi-layered voice carrying absolute certainty. You fight well, children of Terra. Your ancients fought well too, before they learned wisdom and ascended beyond our reach. But your warfare threatens the silence we have maintained. The Wraith are annoying parasites we tolerated. The Ori are ascended fools we ignore. You broadcast power and violence with technology that approaches dangerous thresholds. So you're what? Sheppard demanded. The galaxy's hull monitors. Enforcing noise ordinances on civilizations that get too loud. We are the original dwellers, who claimed this galaxy before the ancients arrived fleeing their civil war. We are the ones who taught the ancients that some knowledge is too dangerous to pursue. We are the returned, and we have awakened to ensure that young species do not repeat mistakes that nearly destroyed reality itself. Master Chief processed the implications with Spartan efficiency. They're not here to conquer. They're here to enforce technological limits. They think we're approaching capabilities that threaten their definition of stability. Then they're about to learn that humanity doesn't accept limits imposed by others, Lasky stated, his voice carrying the steel of someone who'd heard similar warnings from the Covenant, the Created, and every other species that tried to dictate humanity's development. We forge our own path. The return's response carried what might have been amusement. Such certainty. The ancients said the same before they learned. You will learn too, either through wisdom and restraint, or through the painful demonstration that some doors should remain closed. One of the vessels moved forward, and space itself seemed to protest. The ship didn't accelerate, it simply existed at a new location, dimensional manipulation making conventional physics irrelevant. It positioned itself between Infinity and Atlantis, not threatening but definitely making a point. Stand down your weapons, the return commanded. Cease your warfare. Return to your respective realities and leave Pegasus to recover from your interference. This is your single warning before we enforce compliance. And if we refuse? Doctor, we're asked, diplomatic training warring with the reality that negotiation might be impossible with beings who viewed humanity as children playing with matches near gasoline. Then we demonstrate why the ancients ascended rather than continue competing with us for galaxy dominance. You have witnessed Ori power and found it beatable. You have fought Wraith and won. You have defended against threats you understand. We are not threats you understand. We are the reason the ancients built defensive measures even after ascending. Refuse our warning, and you will learn the difference between fighting opponents and facing inevitability. The transmission ended. The 8 vessels held position, waiting with the patience of species that measured time in geological epochs rather than human lifespans. In Atlantis's operations center, silence fell like a hammer. They'd survived Wraith armadas and wounded Ori warships, but this was something different. This was facing species that predated the ancients, that had taught the galaxy's most advanced civilization the meaning of restraint through methods nobody wanted to imagine. Master Chief looked at the tactical display, at the defensive network they'd built, at the two versions of humanity that had forged alliance through necessity and maintained it through mutual respect. Then he looked at Captain Lasky's image on the holographic link, seeing reflected determination. "Sir," Chief said quietly, "recommend we establish communication protocols with the returned. Learn what their actual concerns are, what thresholds they're enforcing, what compromises might exist between their demands and our mission parameters." "Agreed," Lasky replied. "But Chief, if it comes to fighting, if they force the issue and leave us no options, then we fight," Chief finished. "Spartans don't surrender. Atlantis doesn't kneel. And Infinity doesn't run from threats just because they claim superiority. We've faced extinction before and refused to accept it. Whatever the returned represent, they'll learn the same lesson every other species has learned: humanity survives through stubborn determination and refusal to quit." Dr. Were stepped forward, diplomatic courage carrying her through fear that most sensible people would find paralyzing. "Open a channel to the returned. If they want to talk about restraint and technological limits, let's talk. But they need to understand something fundamental: we're not the ancients. We don't ascend when things get difficult. We adapt, we innovate, and we defend the people who can't defend themselves. If the returned want to enforce limits on that mission, they're going to discover that both versions of humanity are very good at finding creative solutions to impossible problems." The communication channel opened. The returned waited with ancient patience. And in Atlantis, aboard Infinity, and across 14 defended worlds, two humanities prepared to defend principles more fundamental than survival: the right to forge their own destiny, protect those who needed protection, and refuse any authority that demanded submission through threat of force. The war for Pegasus had evolved beyond Wraith and Ori. Now it faced something older, something that claimed authority over galactic development itself. But humanity, both versions, united by necessity and strengthened by alliance, had decided that some things were worth fighting for regardless of odds. The returned had awakened expecting compliance. They were about to discover that humanity's greatest strength had always been the stubborn refusal to accept inevitability. Master Chief stood at his post, Mjolnir armor ready, weapons checked, and tactical mind processing scenarios that all ended with the same fundamental truth: sometimes survival required facing threats you couldn't understand, couldn't predict, and definitely couldn't defeat through conventional methods. So you improvised. You adapted. You trusted your team, believed in your mission, and you kept fighting until impossible became improbable, became achievable. The ancients had ascended when faced with the returned. Humanity had different plans. Humanity would defend Pegasus, protect its people, and prove that young species could learn wisdom without abandoning strength, could embrace restraint without accepting subjugation. Whatever came next, whatever the return brought, whatever impossibilities Pegasus still held in its ancient depths, two humanities would face it together, armed with technology they barely understood, tactics they were still refining, and the absolute certainty that their mission wasn't finished. The galaxy had awakened forces that slept for millions of years. Those forces would now learn what the Wraith and Ori had discovered. That humanity, when pushed to the wall and given no options except surrender or extinction, had always chosen a third option. They chose to fight. They chose to survive. And they chose to win through any means necessary. The siege of Atlantis had ended. The defense of Pegasus continued. And somewhere in the operational logs of both UNSC Infinity and the ancient city of Atlantis, a single word appeared in mission status reports, written by commanders who understood that some wars lasted years and some lasted generations. Ongoing. The stars wheeled overhead. Ancient technology hummed with patient power. UNSC Marines and Spartan supersoldiers stood watch beside Atlantis personnel who'd learned to trust in allies they never expected. And across Pegasus Galaxy, human settlements that had lived in terror for 10,000 years slept peacefully, defended by two versions of humanity that refused to let ancient nightmares return. The returned waited for humanity's answer. The Wraith plotted revenge from the shadows. The Ori planned their next crusade. And somewhere in the spaces between realities, the dimensional barriers that had brought infinity to Pegasus still fluctuated with energies that suggested the story wasn't over, merely paused, waiting for the next chapter. Master Chief removed his helmet one final time, looking at the stars that weren't his but had become worth defending anyway. Beside him, Sheppard raised his beer in silent toast to impossible victories and alliances that shouldn't work but did. "Think we can actually win this?" Sheppard asked quietly. Chief considered the question with the brutal honesty that defined Spartans. "Don't know. But we'll find out together." Indeed. The word hung in the air, borrowed from TLC, adopted by both communities, representing simple truth about warriors who'd fought impossible odds and refused to surrender. Not a guarantee of victory. Just acknowledgement that the fight continued, the mission endured, and humanity, both versions, would face whatever came next with the same stubborn determination that had carried them through 30 years of extinction wars and 5 years of Wraith sieges. Indeed. More stories awaited. More battles loomed. More impossible odds would test the alliance between two versions of humanity that had decided Pegasus was worth defending. But tonight, Atlantis stood strong. Infinity maintained watch. And across 14 worlds, people slept peacefully for perhaps the first time in 10,000 years. That was victory enough. For now. The alliance between UNSC Infinity and Atlantis Expedition rewrote Pegasus Galaxy's strategic landscape in ways even the ancients hadn't anticipated. Two versions of humanity, one inheriting ancient legacies, one forging strength through desperate survival, created something neither could have achieved alone. The defensive network spanning 14 worlds proved that coordinated resistance could challenge even ancient predators. The wounded Ori warship fleeing back through the Supergate sent messages that rippled through the crusade. And the Return's awakening demonstrated that Pegasus still held mysteries older and more dangerous than anyone had imagined. Master Chief and the Spartan contingent found purpose in a galaxy 3 million light-years from home, defending people who needed defenders and proving that UNSC doctrine worked regardless of reality. Colonel Sheppard and the Atlantis teams gained firepower and tactical expertise that transformed defensive survival into strategic offense. Together, they forged an alliance built on mutual respect, shared sacrifice, and the fundamental understanding that some missions transcend origin universe, protecting the innocent, refusing tyranny, and maintaining the principle that sentient species forge their own destinies. The Wraith learned caution. The Ori learned resistance. The Returned learned that humanity, both versions, approached technological limits not with restraint but with creative solutions that changed the parameters of the problem. And across Pegasus, human settlements experiencing their first generation without cullings began building civilizations rather than just surviving until the next harvest. Captain Lasky's decision to delay slipspace repairs wasn't abandonment of home, it was recognition that Infinity's mission in Pegasus wasn't finished. Spartans didn't quit while civilians needed protection. UNSC personnel didn't abandon allies in contested theaters. And sometimes, the mission you didn't choose became the mission that mattered most. The war for Pegasus continues. The Return demand answers about humanity's intentions. The Wraith plot revenge from reorganized territories. The Ori prepare their next crusade. And somewhere in the dimensional barriers between realities, energies fluctuate that suggest Infinity's arrival was catalyst for changes nobody fully understands. But Atlantis stands strong, defended by ancient technology and UNSC firepower. Infinity maintains Overwatch, its crew committed to a galaxy they've adopted. And Master Chief stands ready, Mjolnir armor gleaming in Lantean sunlight, prepared to face whatever threats emerge from Pegasus's ancient depths. Two humanities, united by necessity and forged by impossible odds, have decided that this galaxy is worth defending. The Returned may demand restraint. The enemies may claim inevitability. But humanity, both versions, has learned through millennia of warfare that survival belongs to those who refuse to accept defeat, adapt to impossible circumstances, and maintain absolute certainty that the mission continues regardless of odds. Indeed. More stories await in the Pegasus Galaxy, where Spartans walk ancient halls and puddle jumpers carry UNSC Marines through hyperspace. Where defensive networks protect settlements that once lived in terror. Where two versions of Earth's children prove that humanity's greatest strength was never technology or firepower, it was the stubborn refusal to let ancient nightmares dictate the future. The siege has ended. The defense endures. And the stars over Atlantis shine on warriors who've learned that home isn't always where you start, sometimes it's where you're needed most. Indeed. More stories await.